I've got blue souls, cause I'm way gone, trying to find my way back home. Count my bones as in desert crumbs spoon. I'm gonna turn all of my stones.
Rock bottom make a man and some pressure make a gemstone. Try to put a dollar to my name like Creflo. Ninja boy, late to the game, it's in the blood flow. When I'm from the south, it's thick skin and tough bone. Big attitude through big lips with gusto. Trust no kings, that's why they tried to crush souls. But it's IGBO, when the dust blow, this old head be standing there. No silver, just gold. Crack notebooks on the hustle, I was born to grind. Yo, I'm scared of your potential, I'm adorned with mine. 30 times around the sun, man, of course I shine. My legacy will not dwarf with time. And in my daughter's eyes, it's basic, I must not say quit. Every day sees a present like a Rob St. Nick. Walk a fine line between tenacious and patient. I can't slip, I'm fighting clocks and they can't win.
I've got blue souls, cause I'm way gone, trying to find my way back home. Count my bones as in desert crumbs flow. I'm gonna turn all of my stones. I've got blue souls, cause I'm way gone, trying to find my way back home. Who that soldier in the mirror? Oh, oh. I'm gonna turn all of my stones.
Impeccably I flow, hardest raps you know, breaking status quo, reaping what I sow, artistry like Django, get it from my mama, hip so thick that I need tempo, personality spicy, body banging like a bongo, cause black women been it since Timbuktu since Pharaoh, sponge rollers and hot combs, lips, cheeks and brow bones, if you ain't for the culture then please stay out of my zone, these little dummy rappers could never grace my headphones, see I'm from a place in space where ain't no storytelling, you just had to have been there, if you want the battle ain't no problem, say where. I got so much experience, I can't even play fair. But I'ma keep evolving and growing and hurting feelings and showing. You need endurance to go in. I got mileage on this pen. I've been busy cause I've been out here schooling all these kids. Took 3 decades to have this glow up that I did.
I've got blue souls, cause I'm way gone, trying to find my way back home. Count my bones as in desert crumbs flow. I'm gonna turn all of my stones. I've got blue souls, cause I'm way gone, trying to find my way back home. Who that soldier in the mirror? Oh, oh. I'm gonna turn all of my stones. Turn all of my
know you guys were checking shoes last night to see if he was barefoot. Is that still the case? Is he barefoot? Because I know on Facebook somebody posted a picture of these could be his shoes, or is that so he is presumed to be barefoot at this point?
What I can say is that his mom says all of his shoes are accounted for at the house. I'm not going to say that he's barefoot.
All right.
Allegedly!
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative. Here's a brief disclaimer for tonight's show. Let's watch.
That's ignorant! Allegedly, that's ignorant! Ignorant.
Judgment, Austin.
Oi, you read my thoughts. You've got the shinin.
You mean shining?
Shh, you wanna get sued?
Judgment, Austin.
You just use that shin of yours to call me and I'll come a running. But don't be reading my mind between 4 and 5. That's Willie's time.
Hey, yo, boss. I love it when he does that.
Let's watch.
Don't get me back to good bullshit.
Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. This is Lady Freedom here coming at you with another raw narrative. And it's so good to see all of you tonight. Thank you so much for being here and I hope you all had a wonderful holiday. It's over with for those who are stressed out during this time period. I think all of us get a little bit of stress during the holidays, right? Because we have to buy presents, and as fun as that is and as good as it feels to give to other people, it's very stressful to be running around. And even if we're doing it online, we want to make sure we get everybody feels loved and appreciated, all of that. So it can be very stressful and just, the hustle and bustle of the holidays. So I think it's good that it's over with. I hope it all went well and how you all expected it to, and so on and so forth. Thank you, Chuchi. Welcome in, everyone. Please hit the like button, and also viewer discretion is advised. We are going to be talking about, again, some very hot button topics in this live, and we always do. So viewer discretion is always advised. A mature audience is what we have here because of the content and because what we talk about. And please always use allegedly, in my opinion, right? Or as we're going through, you don't have to do it to every statement, but if you're stating something to be a fact, just say in my opinion, right? And again, guys, with Lady Freedom's raw narratives, this is my narrative. This is the way that I see things, and then I want to hear how you all see things, because if every single one of us latched on to only one theory, then we wouldn't be Sebastian's army. The fact that we all work together towards a common goal is why we're Sebastian's army, is why we're Devlin's army. Now, I'm going to tell you guys about Devlin's army in a little bit, but the reason why I want to focus on Sebastian's army is because Devlin's army is running very smoothly at the moment. I am not the general. I am a cadet at best, right? We have boots on the ground. We have search and rescue working. We have Tamra, who is reaching out to resources, right? And that's what we need from the family. We try to take a lot of the load off of the family because it's stressful and because they can only do so much on their end. Everyone can bring something different to the table, right? Because we're all individuals. It's about how we work together as a team that matters, right? And that's what brings that oneness. And I know I'm probably gonna, botch that quote a little bit. That's a Vince Lombardi quote. But I think that when we think about teams in sports, there are just some great quotes out there that I was reading last night, and how even Michael Jordan, right? In my opinion, the best, right? He's the man. He's the best basketball player out there. Um, whoever was, right? Whoever will be. That's my opinion. But it took a great team, and he never forgot that. He never forgot that. And so I think it's very important to remember that Michael Jordan wasn't the team that won all of those championships. Michael Jordan is an amazing player, but you also had Scottie Pippen, you also had Dennis Rodman, right? You also had that energy, that feeling in the basketball arena, right? Which everybody brings that, and it's dynamic. It's dynamic. And we need that on Sebastian's team. We need that for Sebastian's army. And when that doesn't happen, it's very sad. What we're seeing in Devlin's army is just that very thing. Everybody working together, doing their own part in order to make things happen. Right. And that's including law enforcement. We have a completely different feel and look in law enforcement. We also don't have the threats and that sort of thing going on in Devlin's case, thank God. Right? Like, we saw part of Devlin's army, in my opinion, Piper and her husband and the searchers that were out in the snow and the cold. They were out there in search of Devlin, and they're doing the best that they can do, right? Talking to people, boots on the ground, looking. That's what we need from people there. And that's what I was praying for in Devlin's case, is just for that, right? For me to know at least that there's people doing that. So that way I can come back to you guys and talk about it, right? And say, oh, good, we have people doing that. Also, search and rescue. So because a lot of people didn't think that there was search and rescue involved when Devlin went missing, it was like, how Sebastian's case was. Look for him for the first week and then forget about him. That's not what happened. There's still active searches and searchers willing to go out and look. Hey, Gail, thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Good to see you, Gail, and also little Miss Sharon. Good to see you. Thanks so much for being here, guys. I'll just do a quick shout out um, as well to Joe Neal. Also, Bo is here. Thanks for being here, Bo and Sasha. I saw you guys coming in hot with some theories and some questions. I love that. Hey, Lori. Good to see you, Lori. And Brenda Calvert is here. So good to see you, Cinderella. Let's see, who else do I have in here? Sasha says, okay, this is great. Hey, Witchy Mama. Sasha says, okay, stay with me. We got hindsight with KP's movements. Now Brinks has independent hires independent contractors now just recently, right? So Sasha coming in hot with some of those deeds, because those are the things that we should focus on as well. And here's the thing that's so cool. Again, going back to this, right? Going back to what everybody can be doing. Hindsight is not going to work on the same theories as I would. I mean, yes, granted, we did kind of meet in the middle because she was looking at all of the other goings on of the Yellow Jacket while I was focused on him. So that was where we kind of met with our research and where we were aligned at that moment, which is fantastic when that happens, right? It's like, fireworks. And so as I was doing that, I was able to go back and reference her research because she's awesome, not stingy with anything. She says any creators can use her work. Peer review is super important. We're going to get into that too because I heard that there was some upset feelings or some harsh feelings about the peer review that I did on Mob Crew. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows that I, in no way, shape, or form, wanted to upset Chris because, again, he is part of Sebastian's army. He is part of the same team that I'm on. So why would I want to upset my teammate or why would I want to push down my teammate? No, that's not what we do as a team, right? And he has to work his theories from the information that he's getting, just like I have to work the theories on the information that I receive. Same thing goes for Silvers. Same thing goes for, and he's out there getting footage, right? And things like that. So when everybody is working together, but they're doing things separately and independently, it's for the greater good of a better outcome, right? Because if we were all to just go, oh, I'm going to go to the cemetery, it's a cemetery, a cemetery, cemetery. No, that is counterproductive to actually finding the solution, right? Because everybody's focused on one thing. They're not spreading ideas out. They're not doing their own stuff. They're not thinking independently at all. They're thinking about what Chris is doing. And I also want to preface too that it was one of my viewers that is also a viewer because we all have, a lot of the same subscribers, a lot of the same viewers, a lot of the same members, a lot of the same mods, right? Which is fantastic. It's because we're a part of a community, again, a team. With that being said, hey, Gina, with that being said, everybody is going to work different avenues of the case. So, and a lot of times when people ask me to peer review or what I think of this, I think to myself, if one person is asking me that, then there must be at least 3,000 other people that think that way because I have all organic subscribers. I don't have bots. I don't have people I don't know. I know probably all 3,000 of you. It's in some capacity. I've seen you in the chat, I've seen you in the comments, whatever. So I know that there are people, there are brains, there are thinkers behind these screen names, right? Like we have our lovely, let's see here. I'll shout you guys out. We got Nancy here. We got Bo. Bo, I think I already said hello, but either way, hey, Shadow. Good to see you, Shadow. Also, let's see. Gail, good to see you. I think I said hi to you, Gail, earlier. Hey, Ann Reynolds, good to see you. Just want to catch up and chat just a little bit here. Hey, Blessed in Florida, thank you for hitting the like button. That helps so much too, guys. Hey, NorCal SoGal, thank you for being here. Helps so much, so very much. Hey, Women's Warrior, I got your email, guys, and I did get a couple of emails. I just didn't get to get back, and that's another thing. I'll read an email and then someone, hey, girl, mom, I got to get you a wrench, girl. I got to get you a wrench. And that just reminded me, if Jude's in here, she's going to get my butt for that. She's going to be like, what you do? No, I'm just kidding. But so good to see you. Hey, Don B, good to see you. So another part of Sebastian's army, right? And girl mom, and you guys all have done so much. Hey, Holly S. And whenever you guys just come in with anything, right? Like, okay, here's the thing. Again, I can't see everything that's going on. I wish I could. It would be awesome. But there's only so much on a flow of information that we can even process, right? And I'm a processor. Hey, Meow, good to see you. And so, I like to sit and figure things out and think on it, right? And sometimes that doesn't always work when I have a live stream, and so it can be a little bit difficult. Just putting opinions out on the fly. I don't like to do reaction because sometimes my initial reaction isn't true to what, I ended up ultimately feeling. But sometimes it can be interesting to do a bit of a reaction like, holy cow, I never saw this before. And I'm watching it with you guys the first time. I always think of all the people Sebastian has brought together. Yes, girl mom. Oh my gosh, so many of us. So many of us. Um, just even being in Hendersonville, I got a different feel of the situation, right? Just because, like, I'll just say for one, I was a little bit scared to go, right? I was feeling apprehensive. And I am a very anxious person as it is. I deal with anxiety problems anyway. So on top of that, everyone's like, here you go. You might need some bail money or, stuff like that, which I would laugh about, but then I would think about it later and I'd be like, oh gosh, what am I getting myself into? But when I went to Hendersonville, I realized that people there are very good people. There are some very good people. And I knew that before, sort of from just online. But when you go there and see and meet people, you realize you can get a better feel for who they are. And so, I was kind of like all senses going, right? Like I'm meeting new people, I'm checking out the area, I'm taking in everything. Hey, IML. I'm doing all of this processing, right? Because I'm not just somebody that just spits it out right away. I need to kind of take a little bit of time. And also, Nerdy Addict had come out just right before that with some interesting information that really kind of it really deserved to be pondered on, in my opinion, right? Because it was different information that Chris had never told anybody before, right? um and then we also were hearing that there was this warrant that was served on Chris and Katie's home, and that's big to me. To me, that was big. And then we had Susan Constantine, and she came out and spoke. Very articulate, very smart. You could tell professional woman. I got to consider the source of information, and when I look at someone like her, I say, okay, that's a put together person. She's, you know, obviously a good source. Um, so we had all of that, and then Pigfest also. And Pigfest was a very the time that we went was during the steak dinner, right? And so it was very much mild, right? It really was. It was mild. Thank you so much, Chuchi, for gifting a Lady Freedom's Raw Narratives membership. If you got a membership from Chuchi, make sure that you say thank you and welcome to the Dragon Tribe. And sometimes we can see who's got it, but I can't see it this time. So, but welcome whoever got that membership, and thank you, Chuchi. So, you know, it was a lot of information. It was a lot of information, but I'll tell you, the reason why I did the mob review was because people asked me to. And I will say that that's a good thing, right? Because it's sparking a conversation about Sebastian. So I never I never look at it um in terms of, I'm sorry, I just lost my train of thought really quick. I just want to go up. Oh, girl mom got it. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you guys. I just saw that and I saw lady and then I'm like, okay, wonderful. Fantastic. Okay. Well, welcome to the Dragon Tribe mom, girl mom too. So glad that you got it. I get nervous sometimes, guys, because who knows sometimes who knows who gets them. And so either way, whenever whenever somebody asks me to do that, I think it's a good thing. And I don't, again, like to review people that I don't particularly agree with, at least like 50%, right? Because I don't want to just like every single thing they say, oh no, I disagree. Oh no, that's wrong. Oh no. You know what I mean? Because if I was to do that, it would kind of defeat the purpose of reviewing it, right? I could just say, guys, that I don't even want to like waste the time on it, right? I don't want to talk about it because I don't believe like none of it, right? And so and I don't hype people's videos that I don't like, and I don't share them on my community post for people I don't like. I just don't do that. You will never catch me doing that. It would be, a little bipolar of me to do that. They'd be, hey, I thought you didn't like this person, but you're sharing him out on your page, right? So I think there was a lot of confusion when I did the Mob Crew review and I didn't agree with him 100%, right? Or I didn't agree with the theory 100%. I'm very grateful that Silver's on the Scene put out, I think it was like a 15-minute video, and he was saying, I want to be very direct with what my theory is. And I was like, oh, thank God. Right. So, because a lot of people were saying, no, 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 they don't think that Sebastian is there. And it turns out he absolutely does think that he is there. And also looking into some of the ways that they could find out whether Sebastian is there or not, right? Because, whether we think he's there or not is not the that's not the point, right? What we want to do is we want to make sure he's there, right? And then what's the next step, just to eliminating that spot? And that's what we all do so well together, even if it's not like a direct collaboration. It's putting a theory out there, it's discussing that theory, like what Hindsight did. Now she put out a polar opposite theory, in my opinion, than Mob Crew, right? Because it's my opinion from what I watched, and we reviewed it a little bit. But I didn't play this last part, so just, I just want to kind of recap that. What Hindsight's theory is that Sebastian is alive. He's out there alive somewhere, right? And it might be like, you know, near the Mexican border, right? It might be that he's over into Mexico, right? Or they have been visiting Canada allegedly. So they might, who knows, that they might be there, going traveling there in some other vehicle that's unknown to us. But it seems to me, based on Hindsight's research, that it was, 3 months out of the year, 3 months out of the year, that's 6 months out of the year that Katie was traveling, and that's half of the year, right? Because there's 12 months in a year, 6 months, give or take a little over 6 months. And that's a half a year. So because she put that out, or excuse me, I'm sorry, Voices of Truth, respectfully, to the group, because I do love them. Um, that's a completely different theory. Like guys, I mean, you can't say that you disagree more with what Mob put out, but then one thing that was very cool is that Mob also showed that research on his show. Again, we all choose who we work with, what we put out, our own opinions, right? Our own theories. But that doesn't mean that we don't show other people's theories and talk about them, right? That is what brings us to the answers, not latching on to one theory or another, keeping an open mind and thinking for ourselves. And that's all I was just begging you guys to do. Not you guys that are in the chat. I understand, um, but I was, and Lori, I know you were too. I saw you and I'm just like, "No, I'm telling you, I'm not." I love every single person that has done anything. And I was even going so far as to be like, I'm a member." You know what I mean? I felt like, George Costanza. I was in the pool, I mean, it was like the worst. Um but we're all going to do that. We're all going to come up with independent theories, right? And then talk about them and show them, because I would be doing you guys a disservice if I didn't show you guys what um was put out. And I was trying to explain it, but then because I knew that they had taken like the actual address out, just leaving the states and stuff. So I was like, oh, I can explain that. But then, we were getting into the topic, and I thought, what would be better is if I showed part of their video, so you guys can see it, right? And so, but I usually like to kind of already have that prepared for you guys, and I usually don't like to review on the fly. And again, it's mostly because I like to condense it down and edit out like any ums or buts or ifs, or, I might, speed it up a little bit, slow it down a little bit. So I like to do all that. You know what, Joe? They might, I think they're on different sides of the aisle. Joe says Devlin and Sebastian may be in Mexico together. Um, I mean, nothing is off the table. I will just say that where Sebastian may or may not be located, if he is in Mexico, would be a little bit further away from where Devlin would be if he was there. Um, yeah, but that is not something that I'm going to say no on for either one of them, because honestly, that would be the best case scenario. It really would be, you know. Oh, people were being so rude, Lori, and we're not used to that here. We do not do that. And I'm going to tell you, also, I was not I was not baiting Mob to go at me and me go at him, and go back and forth. And I don't know if that comment was directly about me or not. Um, but I was not baiting him to do that. I would never do that to a teammate. Right, and that's how I look at everybody that's working for Sebastian. Really quick, I wanna show you guys this. Um, I wanna show you guys this that I made, and I wanted to make it the other day, but then I had some trouble in the Discord, and I'm gonna tell you guys, you know, one thing I wanna say is that it would absolutely break my heart um if people got hurt in my Discord, right, where I've invited y'all, and I feel like I'm responsible for what happens in there. And when we have Discord in the Discord, right? It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult because I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable, and I want everybody to have like a safe place to have fun and joke around. And I mean, we put up the gifs of, people, the one that was so funny, Chuchi put one with a lady that was like, making like a huge drink and said, "I've only had one." Ha ha ha. Or I put the lady from the mom from the '70s show, in there. And that to me was really really funny. How she's fixing herself a drink with like, but she's just pouring the tequila in there. Stuff like that is just kind of what I enjoy about that. And then also like sharing videos again, because I do want to um visit some people. Thank you so much, Little Miss Sharon. Thank you. Yes, because I just love Mob. Like I love him, you guys. You guys have no idea. I don't just buy memberships to people's channels. Like I'm very maybe I could I'm gonna call myself frugal, but I'm cheap a little bit with who I buy the memberships for, and because I believe in what he does, I do the membership over there, right? So yeah. And Silvers is amazing. Everybody that is willing to go there, um, boots on the ground, anybody that's willing to just even get up here and talk about Sebastian and valid theories and things that could be, is Sebastian's army. I mean, we're all Sebastian's army. None of us work harder than the next person. Trust and believe that. Trust and believe that much, from what I'm saying tonight, is that not one single one of us works harder than the next person to bring Sebastian home, right? And that goes for any other case as well. Um, we're all working hard. Um, no doubt about it. And I've never, ever have ever thought that one person worked harder than the other. Because we all matter and all of our opinions matter, and that goes for all of you too. That goes for all the subscribers. That goes for everybody who works and cares so much. Like Girl Mom is one, that I know she's a subscriber. She's not a creator, but she's worked hard behind the scenes, right? We all really have, when it comes to going through this research. And I'm here to tell you, it's hard. It's hard to think of our beautiful Sebastian with his beautiful face, um, that he's still out there. None of us thought this was going to be something. So I want to explain my thumbnail. All right. So I took real army guys, people, guys and gals. Um, and thank you to them. Thank you to our service members. And these are some real army people too. And I love this lady. She's given a side eye. This is for Seth right here. The side eye that he likes to give people. So that's for Seth. And then we got Seth and another, again, not a creator, a lovely citizen, a friend of our channel, a beautiful soul, right? A beautiful soul that went out there when Seth was out there, and it was just Jen, Jeff, and Seth, and he's got the microphone and he's got the signs, for Sebastian. That's what Sebastian's army is all about. And so then I got this yesterday, and this is a flyer that was put up by Kentucky, right? And it's an antique shop. And then here was Sebastian in the window. Anybody who's shared his flyer, you guys are Sebastian's army. If you went and taped that flyer up, you're Sebastian's army. We are Sebastian's army. We are Sebastian strong, even all the way up to Kentucky, right? But there's so many people that have put flyers out in their own areas, and that's what we can really do right now to make a huge difference. A huge difference. And I believe Jen said that on her live, because I watched her live. I was watching everybody's lives, right? Which I'm like, I don't have time to watch other people's lives right now. But I did. I took that time out yesterday, and I was just processing everything. And I wanted to hear from everybody. I wanted to hear from everybody that has worked so hard for Sebastian, because their opinions matter to me. They do. It's not about, let me go find an aha moment to make one of our teammates look like they're inadequate or incompetent, because they're not. They are not. Shadow, it's just the membership. I got the lowest one so far. I put it on that one, I believe. Yes, because then I wanted to do like a higher tier one, just to do like case reviews and things like that, if people were interested in doing something like that. Um, because like I said, in the new year, I really want to kind of ramp things up. But, I think everybody gets a little bit down. And I think that it's a big part of it is the frustration that we haven't found Sebastian yet. I wanted to do this review. Um, and I wanted to do it for New Year's, but like I said, there was a lot of hurt feelings. There was a lot of people who weren't feeling like I was being fair when I was reviewing Mob. So I do want to address that because honestly, I didn't think it was going to be a big deal at all, and it turned into be one. But I know how that can be with people running to somebody and saying, "This person's talking bad about you. This person's talking bad." And just because they feel like I'm talking bad, I doubt that Mob has the time to watch a 6-hour live. And the only reason I did another live the next day about it is because there were so many people that were upset, right? Because that matters to me. Um Yes, I know, NorCal, SoCal, isn't that great? They won't keep it on the door at Warsham's, yet here we are with Kentucky, and you can tell this has been up, you know what I mean? Because look, it's dog-eared on this side, but they've kept his flyer up, right? And there's many flyers. This one's from Aware, right? But there's all kinds of flyers out there for Sebastian, and again, this is, Devlin's flyer from Missing in America, right? That is who Tammy put that up, right? And then this one is the one that Jesse Farber's wife made for me. Beautiful flyer. I could not have done a better job myself. And that is where we're all important to the cause, guys. I'm not a flyer maker. Aware Foundation makes beautiful flyers, right? Missing in America makes beautiful flyers. Those are where we can get them out on a national level. So it all works. It's all for the greater good. It's all for one goal, you know? Joe says I'm still pissed. All capitals, double, triple, quadruple eyes across the board. Oh my goodness. Gail, that's a great point. That is such a great point. Sebastian's army of creators have different God given talents in different areas, and that is what is going to take to find Sebastian. Thank you, Gail. And that's another thing, too. Like I said, when we went to the Stop 30 stop, and then Jen got a hold of Silvers and said, "Hey, could you go check that area out?" Right? Because he's better at that. We were on the outskirts. I filmed, like all the places that they could have maybe pulled over, did something like this. But that spot is so I wanted to show you guys how secluded it was. But then when they went back into the wooded area that's around there, I mean, there was like a little camp set up. And I mean, oh my gosh. And guys, I was not I didn't even bring clothes to search, right? I mean, I was wearing Hey Dudes, which are little lightweight, the best shoes ever, by the way, and comfortable shoes because I knew I'd be doing a lot of walking, but I wasn't equipped to go into those areas, not in the slightest. So all of that and putting those puzzle pieces together is what a team does. Everybody has those God-given talents. Thank you, Gail. Thank you so much. Friendly reminder to use allegedly. Yes, thank you. Thank you, little Miss Sharon. Joe, he's so silly. I told him, simmer down, simmer down. And Chris is very open to scrutiny. That's what, yeah, exactly, Sasha. I'd never thought it was going to hurt anybody's feelings. I never did. Sasha says, and Chris is very open to scrutiny because he likes to challenge. Yes, the creator. So he's solid and completely accurate, totally gets this, and he completely understands. He knows the whole must be filled. Yeah, and I will say, guys, I was thinking about maybe even a handoff at the cemetery. So I was just analyzing everything, and I don't think that the person who asked me to do the review, I don't think it was a setup or anything. You know what I'm saying? Because I mean, it was more or less they were not expecting my opinion to be what it was, and it was disappointing, and it didn't meet their expectations of me. Which I have to just say, I have to be true to myself. And I do love pleasing you guys. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm a people pleaser. If somebody's upset with me, it doesn't really sit well with me, right? I know. And honestly, I don't always go to the one conclusion or another. I'm like, maybe they're going through something tough right now, and they don't it's not really about me. It's about something bigger or different. So, but I think that's what it was. I agree, Sasha. I think it was because people were probably saying, "Oh, Lady Freedom did 2 lives about you," and it wasn't. It was mainly Silver's because he did the test. But then we did watch Mob Cruise, after that. Um, yeah, I think everybody I agree with that, IML. I think everybody wants to have Sebastian home, right? Like, I think it breaks everybody's heart seeing Seth, how upset he is. And it's just upsetting in general knowing that Sebastian is still out there and we don't know where he is. And it's ultra upsetting because as we're going to see here, after I play this, that Silvers is very direct in his theory and what he's believing to be true. So I think that's important too because um we need to find him. We need to make sure that he's not there. Because there was lights in the cemetery. Obviously, that's not being argued. Um, there were definitely lights there. There were some lights in the school parking lot. It's my understanding that the car turned out going south on the road, so that's one direction that maybe we can work from, because we don't know what happened. So even if there was something that happened in the cemetery, that didn't involve, because here's the good thing about this is that they've pinpointed that there were lights in the cemetery. And then they've pinpointed that there was someone buried there recently before Sebastian went missing. And so if they can do that, then they can do testing on the soil, which will in turn either tell us whether Sebastian is there or whether he is not. I would believe that if the soil came back, positive for anything that someone was, buried under there or not, then they're probably going to dig that grave up. In my opinion, that would be the next logical step. But if they don't, um, if that doesn't happen, um, then I would just think that law enforcement, gosh, and I know people don't trust law enforcement. I know that. I have my own, I mean, it's obvious in this case. Now, I'm going to say that I'm not talking about law enforcement across the board. I am not. I am not talking about law enforcement across the board. But in Sebastian Rogers' case, law enforcement has lied to us and we've caught them in lies, right? Law enforcement also did not follow proper protocol when they discovered that Sebastian was missing. You know, yes, yeah, whenever you join the membership, Shadow. Yeah, and then I also have a link for it. Um a members only link for it too. So you would go to the members only page and it would be on there. Cuz I don't have a whole lot, and it won't be a lot of digging either cuz I don't have a whole lot on there, but um I've taken NorCal Sobgale says I've taken in several and they did post them except for the last time. There's a missing cat flyer. Oh no, I remember you saying that too, the missing cat flyer. Oh Lord. And thank you, Women's Warrior, for becoming a new member. Thank you so much. Welcome to the Dragon Tribe. I'm sorry, I was over here talking and talking, and I saw the starred comment right there. Aw, welcome to the Dragon Tribe. You've already been a dragon, though. You guys are all dragons, no matter what, even if you don't have a membership. Hey, Justice for Noog. So good to see you. Joe wants a feud. He said, let's get it. No, and I think that's what, I never wanted Chris to think that I wanted him to us to go back and forth. I would never want that. I think he would win, by the way. I like to think I'm witty and smart, but he probably win that conversation. But I will say I know that we're all working to find to have a common goal, you know? And so I think that's important. So I'm going to play this really quick since I'm caught up in chat. Just bear with me here.
Little boy, you should be in your father's arms tonight. Little boy, today the darkness stole your light. And oh, little boy, this never should have happened to a boy, a little boy. I'm sure you're glad it's over, but our hearts are broken without you here. And I heard your mama crying, and I heard the wings of 20 angels flying. There ain't nothing that I can say. Little girl, your presents wrapped, they're waiting for you. Little girl, this house so still, so sad without you. Little girl, this never should have happened to a girl, a little girl. You need to know we're sorry and our hearts are broken without you here. Today a nation's crying, and I heard the wings of 20 angels flying. Are there any words to say? Would you give new life and then steal it back? Is this all part of the plan? Is this your sovereignty? Were they really called home? No, it can't be that simple. We've wrestled with you, now we crawl away crippled. And I heard our father crying, and I heard the wings of 20 angels flying.
totally free checking.
Oh, okay, guys. Sorry.
With no
Give me one
fees,
second
no
here. We don't want that on there. So I tried to add everyone in there, and then I realized that I forgot Cherry Man. And I was really trying not to forget everybody. That's why it took me so long to get it out. But Cherry Man is a young lady that's been missing for far too long. And Canine Captain Jules has been out searching for her too. Miss Anne. Yeah, I know, and I know that this time of year is so hard, guys. And I just wanted to make a tribute to all of the missing. Um, and again, just what when I say Sebastian's army or Devlin's army, what that means to me, um, because I think all of these kids need to be added to the army. I mean, if we look, little Harmony Montgomery, she's still missing out there, and that is, as the profiler, Mike King would say, is it's a needle in a haystack. Caleb Harris too. Thank you, Sasha. Yeah. Riley Strain was found. That was last year. I was trying to keep them more to this year, but yeah, did I have Jonathan Hong, and sorry if I say it wrong, but I wanted to do a live on Jonathan because I know people were asking about that too. I hope so too. And Harley Morris is missing from Tyler, Texas since January 21st of 2023. Thank you, Shadow. Yeah, I'd like to do more awareness videos like this one, where we just put all the missing flyers out, just all the missing flyers. And I know Monkey Vaughn, um, and also Summer, but some of the cases that I'm able to cover more than others, which is hard. I wish I could cover all of them, you know. Thank God he's still in there. Sasha, he's trying to get out. Um ugh, so but he's out there. Um Thank you. Thank you, SIGI. It's so good to see you. Aw, thank you. He just disappeared after leaving a bar like Riley. Oh my goodness, Shadow. And that was so sad. That was so sad. That really, I mean, obviously it hit close to home for me because I was living in Springfield, Missouri at that time. My daughter was also graduating. So from high school, or excuse me, from college. Excuse me, not high school. Um, just like Riley, they did not know each other. Um, but it was just, I mean, my heart broke for his mother. Absolutely broke for his mother. There's way too many, Brenda. There's just way too many, you know, way too many to cover them all, Bo. Yeah, and even ones that, I would even like to deep dive into a little bit more. Um, like I mean, there's just too many, you know. And I think that if we were to focus, that we could find the answers faster, you know? I know, Joe. I know. Yeah, Harmony won't be found. Adam was pretty clear on that, basically. Yeah, he said, oh, the Manchester police will never find her. Ugh, God, that man really grosses me out big time. Lady, why don't we just become an army for the voiceless? All the kids, young people who the system and parents have let down, who need us to raise awareness, keep looking. Yeah, and I mean, and it's so tough, but I think I could do that if I was to start just, you know, putting out every missing flyer, and doing a video like this because the videos don't take as long. You could put together a really nice video, a 5-minute video with a song, um, and just do missing flyer, um, and just even honor, people who are still out there, like little James Hutchinson. His case really gets me too, like Harmony. 6 years old, his mother reported him missing, and she was the one that hurt him, you know. Um, and if the parents are responsible, they're going to do a really crappy job of awareness. Um, Nerdy Addict is another creator that I would say kind of started discussing Sebastian Rogers' case, and he's put together this really sophisticated analysis for these interviews. And the one video that I watched was very interesting, but again, there's a lot of parts in there that I don't know the live well enough because I haven't watched it over and over. But I want to cut maybe a little bit out of it and do like just the some clips of the analysis, right? It flags things like when somebody's eyes flutter, things like that. And I think that that could be so valuable of a tool for YouTubers, just to kind of play around with, right? Because there's a linguistics piece to the software. Um, again, I very much enjoy that side of analysis when it comes to these cases. Um, Oh, Shadow says Harley's mom reminds me of Riley's mom. Oh, I mean, it's just so sad for the moms, and it is. And I tend to, identify with other moms, of course. Um, but parents, even Seth, Girl Mom says, Lady Freedom, I just found out that the statute of limitations for burying a body in Tennessee is only 2 years. That's insane. Really? Okay. Oh my gosh, that's interesting. See, and I wanted after I show you guys what Silver's put out, I want to go a little bit into Google and see if we can't, Google some key phrases in terms of, the technology that would be used to see if somebody is buried underneath where someone should, already should have been. There's way too many missing, and it seems most have history of CPS, DV, or drugs. Yes, NorCal, SoCal, that is exactly it. Even the beautiful little young man that has just been found, John, I think is his name. I did get a chance to watch Matt Thibodeau, and again, another great creator, part of Sebastian's army, is always putting out like really nice little tidbits, right, that are kind of digestible because I know I'm a longer winded person, or I have longer lives and stuff like that, deep dive and stuff. But he does do deep diving. It's just he puts it out on shorter like TikToks and stuff. I love Matt Thibodeau, by the way. He's great. And so I know I hate that. But see, and then but that father was also it seems like maybe something had happened to little John in the house. And then, but then again, he had a dog that was with him. His dog never left his side. Ugh, you know. I know, Sasha. I just always hope and put her out there because, and again, I don't agree with, all of her parents' decisions, but obviously, Adam's a monster. And Crystal had her own, demons and skeletons and stuff, but when it came time that she knew that she couldn't get a hold of her daughter, she acted, and I would just really like to see her be put to rest, and have that peace of mind for her mom. Which again, I know I don't agree with her mom, but that doesn't matter to me. You know, um, it's just like in Devlin's case, even if I don't agree with certain people, that doesn't mean I'm going to stop working for Devlin because he doesn't deserve that. Yeah, that's right, Joe. They got him. They got him. That was very eye-opening, in my opinion. That was very eye-opening to me. when I saw that. Um, so I think that's excuse me, when I saw the sorry, I'm multitasking, of course. The probable cause affidavit for Michael Monkey Vaughn. When I saw that come out, I was, I guess, not shocked, but I was surprised at how much information they had from the very beginning on that. And it just goes to show that a lot of times law enforcement does have a bunch of information to support, an arrest, but they want to make sure that they get it right, because they only have one bite at the apple. So, I mean, I hope that they find Monkey. Um, that would be the best case scenario. It really would be. Um, it just really would be. So, give me one second. Sumner County Sheriff's Department needs to take lessons from Walker County Sheriff's Department, how they handled Jonathan Boley's case. Thank you, Jonathan Boley. I was calling him John because I saw that. Yeah, the past 48 hours. Yeah, and I mean, there was so much information. Good to see you, Babs, by the way. There was so much information that they could have gotten to begin with, and they didn't, you know? Mm. Oh my goodness. Also, they think they have the law for 2 years. Yeah, yeah, so that anyone who helps with will tell without getting in trouble. Oh, I see. Oh, that makes sense, girl mom. That makes sense. So then that way it's not like you're going to be charged because the statute of limitations has already expired. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's a real sheriff. Oh, well, and I'll tell you what, it's just like the one that found Travis Decker. Yeah, Mike Morrison. What a guy, and he's like, "I'm coming for you." If he was coming for me, I'd be scared. I'd be turning myself in, but then again, we know that Travis didn't turn himself in because he couldn't, because he had already passed away himself, you know? Yes, I watched that, and I love that song, Brenda, and I've shared it before too, and sometimes I just like to share it again just for good measure for people that didn't see it the first time. So, because it's a good video, and, for someone big to put a song out and do that for the missing, oh my god, what a good person that does that, taking that time out. Um, for my tribute video to Sebastian Rogers that I made a long time ago, I asked one of the creators on here if I could use that song, um, and it was Just Breathe by Eddie Vedder. And they said, yeah. They said, just send us the video so we could see what it looks like, and then before you post it. And they approved it for me. So, just all those little things can be so big in helping, right? Just doing that one little thing, and saying, yeah, sure, you could use that. Girl Mom 2 says Nerdy Addict sounds like the drunk the drunk turkey guy that was on Jen Coffindaffer's show. Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I saw that one. He I don't really even know what he looks like, to be honest. I mean, I saw Eva because she was up there on the panel. And that sleuthy Goosey did a really good job. I thought. I mean, that's just my opinion. Who am I to, say, but I thought she did a good job. So, yeah, the little blonde boy with the black lab, and that black lab, he never left his sight, you know? I was thinking about the ground penetrating radar. Yeah, Little Miss Sharon, because that would be less evasive, so it really would be. Yeah, I love Matt because he does, like, the shorter ones, and I mean, as bad as I am about doing the long ones, you know, um, it's easier to watch them. Girl Mom says, "So CP now is your, So CP, now is your time. 2 years is coming up. We all know you're looking for wife number 6. Yes, exactly. Oh, yeah. And, I think that that could be the reason maybe, but Katie might have been traveling alone, but then again, looking into more address searching, it looks like Chris might have been, hey, cool gamer, might have been, with her. So I don't know. I don't know. But I wanted to go ahead and play this because I know there was some confusion as to whether or not oh, sorry, wrong one. Um whether or not Silvers believed that there was evidence that was placed in the cemetery, or whether he believes that Sebastian was placed in the cemetery underneath that grave. And see, that's what I concluded. But we're all gonna conclude different things when we watch, and that's a good thing, because something that I might have never thought of, you did, right? And so it's important to go over that. So I just kind of went past because I think he was talking about New Year's resolutions. But here we go.
What I want to say, and I wanted you to see me. By the way, I'm in Atlanta, at my home in Atlanta. I forgot to mention that to start. So I am in Atlanta. I wish I was in Hendersonville. I wish I was able to search for Sebastian. But that's part of this video. So I want to be direct. Coming off the last video, this video is going to end with a 45-second clip you've seen, boom, right, that you've seen from the test. And then you will have 2 photos that will show how a vehicle could have backed in to the area my car is facing. So here we go. You saw the video. You saw the mob crew videos. The lights are coming. I think it was last night he said the lights are coming. For anyone who thinks the lights are coming from the cemetery, from the construction site, no. He's laid this out. They're coming from the cemetery. The night before Sebastian went missing, the night after Sebastian went missing. What were they doing? Okay. So at this point, I'm going to say, disclaimer on the wall. Here it is. It is. Okay. In my opinion, allegedly, disclaimer on the wall, those cars were in that cemetery the night before he went missing, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, and the night of his disappearance.
Okay, guys. So really quick, because I misinterpreted this to begin with, and somebody helped me out with it. So I just want to kind of say it again, that what they're alleging is that the morning of the 25th, right? Because the clock, at midnight, it's the next day. So on the morning of the 25th at 3 ish, right? 3:45 ish a.m., there was activity in the cemetery. And then the night that Sebastian went missing, the morning of the 26th at around 3:45 a.m., the columbarium was illuminated, columbarium, however you want to say it. Tomato. We know that monument was illuminated for 6 minutes, according to the video that was shown by Mob Crew, right? And then Silvers went and did the test. He's going to show that at the end here. So just to kind of preface that, there was activity on the morning of the 25th at around 3 a.m. and then another more activity around 3:45 a.m. in the cemetery the night that Sebastian went missing. And that would have been at 3 a.m., right? So just a.m. We're dealing with a.m., right? But it's still of a night. It's of a morning, technically, but it's, during the early morning hours of, just so you guys know. Because I was confused with that too. I'm like, there's no way they would be doing anything in the cemetery the night that they reported Sebastian, in my opinion. Like, I don't think they would do that, but that's not what was said. It is exactly 3:45 a.m., but the night before or the morning before, there was the same sort of activity around that time as well. I think that's something to be considered, and that is something that is strange. So here we go.
To hide him. That's the directness. If I wasn't direct the last time, I want to be very direct this time. In my opinion, allegedly, where my lights are facing, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, say his name, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers could be buried there.
Okay, guys, so if there was any confusion, and I know there probably was, because I know people were like, no, no, Lady Freedom, they don't think that. They don't think that, you know? They don't. And SIGI, I did ask a question to Silvers on his page about the video, right? So you know, I mean, whether he answers back or he has time to, I tried to ask him about, you know, my question after this video, but I was always under the impression that that's what he was saying happened right from the beginning. That the theory is that Sebastian's in the cemetery, and that's what he thinks. And I'm glad that I stopped him when he's got his finger pointing at us. But that just is not a question, right? Or nothing is confused because he's being direct and saying this is what my theory is. So um you know, that's part of what I wanted to let you guys know, that I didn't misinterpret that part. So I appreciate Silvers again coming out, and thanks Lori, and you know, making sure that we have um the right interpretation of what the theory is, right? Because that's important. Sasha says, but the circumstantial evidence is building and revealing a clear picture. I agree. And, you know, and that's the thing that, I mean, when there's lights in the cemetery right next to his home 2 nights in a row, I think that's something to look into, right? And this topic of the cemetery has been a topic of conversation for a very long time. And even when, like I said, Jen's asking me, well, which places do you want to go? And I'm like, well, you tell me where you want to bring me, because I'm not sure. And that was one of the places. So that's still an area of interest for Jen, even though she had already searched that area shortly after Sebastian went missing. So it's you know, it's very interesting, and I think that it should be an open topic of conversation. And hey, if my theory was up for discussion, I would be excited about that. So I think it's a good thing. So you know, please make sure that everybody, you know, is respectful about the comments. Chris told Seth to go to church and he would find Sebastian. You know, girl mom, I think that is a great point, right? Um, I think that there's leakage and there's certain nuggets of information that are going to be revealed, right? Just in conversation and talking to people that we think may or may not have guilty knowledge. So, um, for example, in Devlin Tate's case, we had Tamara in the chat, and even though there were times where her and I would just have to say, you know, Tamara, I have to agree to disagree, right? And she would still remain in the chat and talk, right, and help us understand more. But I didn't want, even if there was comments that I really didn't agree with or that I thought might be a little bit harsh, because it's just kind of how Tamara's personality is, right? And plus she's grumpy because she's missing, you know, a family member, so I get it. But that's why I didn't want anything erased, because if Tamara, and sorry for using you as an example, Tamara, if you're listening, but if Tamara had guilty knowledge, there would be times where she would leak out or give us little nuggets, like Girl Mom is referring to with Mr. Chris saying, if Seth wants to find his son, he should go to church, right? And I see Babs saying, Girl Mom, right? He said, if you want to find Sebastian, go to church. And what's right next to the cemetery but a church, you know? And so I think that we need to absolutely examine further, you know. But if all of us examine further what their theory is and we just stick on it and say this is right, this is right, this is right, at what point do we do or go to the next step, right? And here's a good segue for um Silvers to kind of go on with what he's saying.
You heard me correct. You heard me direct. Now, this is alleged. Don't have the facts. We've talked about facts before. If I had facts, we would already have Sebastian home. So we don't have facts. All we have is alleged and theories. And my theory tells me, from every research I've done, working with Mob Crew, working with the locals, thank you to both of them, to everyone, to the comments, to the emails. I just didn't know if I was completely direct on that last video. Go back and look at it. You'll see that clip at the end of this video. Where my car is facing. For those 45 seconds, you hear me go boom at the end. And the reason I go boom at the end is this could be our biggest lead, at least my biggest lead. And that is that allegedly, in my opinion, Sebastian Rogers could be under the ground there. I know it sounds horrible, and I do hope I'm wrong. I do hope I'm wrong. Way off base. And he's nowhere around the cemetery. And he's out playing and he's having fun. And he's had a great New Year so far and a fantastic Christmas. I just don't believe that's the case. So, once again, to sum this up, watch the Mob Crew. I'll leave.
And guys, I just want to say from my point of view, I know, Lori, I know it's really, really tough. I know. And I said this before too, and I don't know if it got lost in the shuffle or if people were, because I've been there in the chat, you know, not really listening, because I'm engaging with the chat. And the creator is up there and you know, I'm engaging in the chat. Um so I just do want to put that out there that we are all entitled to our opinions, and especially if there is evidence that something was going on that night, it has got to be looked into. We cannot. You're welcome, Siggy. I'm sorry. Um, absolutely cannot overlook it. That would be irresponsible. And the reason why I was questioning or had so many questions about this footage was, is it because we just went there, right? Boots on the ground. For me, it's gonna be it's gonna be hey dudes on the ground, right? Because I probably have no business out there in the woods, let's be honest. But you know, it was Jen, Jeff, and I, and we were just kind of on the outskirts. We weren't in the woods or anything, but we were doing our part to film around. And then Silvers was kind enough to go over there and double check it over there as well. And that's what it takes, right? Because I was only there for a certain amount of time. And so I just want to say that I am in no way, shape, or form bashing anyone for having this theory. Does it hurt my heart? Oh, God. You guys, I mean, I was fighting back tears just talking about it, right? And I also said that it's probably because I got a little bit too close, right? Because I know that in true crime cases, there are going to be topics like this. The worst case scenario, like Silver is saying, I'm in full agreement with what he's saying. I want Sebastian to be eating ice cream and pizza. He loves cheese pizza, right? That's what I want. But I have to also consider the reality of what has happened and what may have happened. So I grapple back and forth with my own self about, is Sebastian with us? Is he not? Right. But I'm very careful because I know that his father is in our chat a lot, right? Mr. Rogers is in our chat. And even if he's not chatting, there's times where he's listening. And so I just try to make it, and that's for all of our cases, you know, but in the same way, because I've met Mr. Rogers and, you know, I was there. I've had a feel for what's happened, what's going on. That makes me biased, doesn't it? It makes me biased. And so then when I look at something like this, I don't treat it like I normally would. And that's my fault. That's not Silver's fault. That's not Mob Crew's fault. That's not anybody's fault, really. It's because I got too close, right? And so I have to understand that not everybody is going to have the same perspective as I do. And that's a good thing because we all need to be involved in order to find the solution. We need all of our brain power, all of our focus, and we can find Sebastian. I really believe that. And NorCal SoGil, sorry, I'll read Justice first. And the statement, if everyone knew what Sebastian did, they wouldn't look for him. So not right. I know. Justice, that has stuck with me as well. NorCal SoGil says, yeah, that's why I can't get behind the theory of Sebastian magically reappearing at 18. I can't get behind that one either. I wonder if they're trying to take the heat off by doing that. So people are like, oh, well, we'll see if he comes back when he's 18. That's the way I think of it, NorCal SoGal. And I could be wrong. I don't think anybody who has analyzed Sebastian's case from the beginning has the same theory they did from day one. One example I can give of that is that when I originally thought that Sebastian, or when I originally heard that Sebastian is autistic, I automatically shifted my focus to waterways in the very beginning. And I was thinking that if he's drawn to water, then he is going to probably be in the water. And that is statistically what we see with autistic children. But once I got to know Sebastian a little bit more, I realized, and this was, right away, talking about Sebastian having autism, right? And that's all that was coming from a place of, oh, he's autistic, and therefore statistically, right? This is before I knew him. But once we know that he doesn't go in the pool without water shoes, right? And he doesn't like to go into lakes, rivers, and streams because it's dirty water. He can't see the bottom, blah blah blah. Um, then that changed my perspective. And then I was thinking to myself, did they look in all of the pools to see if maybe Sebastian had tried to get into a pool and he's in there, right? Because remember, he went missing in February. So a lot of people have winterized pools. But that doesn't mean that they're all taking care of the pool the way that they should be, or that Sebastian couldn't have fallen on top of um the pool, right? And then there was water on top and he couldn't get out and he froze, and you know what I'm saying? Like hypothermia set in. So that was my initial thinking, and that changed drastically once I had more information. So that happens. Um, it has always been a bug bear to me that Proudfoots are very smug, and they are very much more likely to put him somewhere not accessible to the public. In my opinion, protecting themselves will be a paramount. Well, and again, women's warrior, I agree with that. That's very well said. Or a private property is likely to, in my opinion, she says. Yeah, and I think that is a high possibility. um and I even worried about the fact that what if they took Sebastian and they put him somewhere not thinking that it was going to get as big as it did, and then it gets as big as it did, and then something was done because of the interest, because they couldn't hide him per se anymore. So I've considered that something could have happened in that regard too. Because, or say they put him in a school and something happened to him because of abuse or maybe another unruly child that he was in there with, and Sebastian's not used to having to be around, those types of harsh kids, if you will. And I thought maybe something could have happened there, you know? Um, and the school is not going to come forward and say, "Oh yeah, Sebastian was here, but we let something bad happen to him." So, I mean, it's scary to think that he would be in one of those secretive schools. And it's something that we've talked a lot about, and it's not off the table for me. It really isn't. Gail says, so for this theory to hold water on the cemetery, it would mean that a grave was dug the day before Sebastian went missing, which is normal practice for a burial site to be prepared the day before. That's what I'm thinking too, Gail. Now, they were saying a couple days. I haven't gotten an exact on that, but there might be a reason because they don't want to give exacts on that, because obviously people would be able to figure out more information on it. But he's going to tell us a little bit more too about that. Gail says, so I'm assuming they have proof that someone was buried in the cemetery Monday. Sebastian went missing. And I think also, Gail, no, and I agree that they could have been checking. Okay, so if that's the case, and say on Saturday there was someone who was buried, and then come Sunday, or excuse me, then come Sunday morning, right, which would be that morning, at 3 o'clock a.m. There was some activity, or how whatever time it was exactly, but it was 2 nights in a row that there was activity in the cemetery. So the first night they were checking that grave. I don't think that they could have disturbed it though, because, and of course this is still Sunday morning, um, because there was church, and this is an active cemetery, even though it's historic. I mean, people had Christmas lights on the grave, right? That weren't there before. So it's very active, very, very active. Lady, we shall see. Yes, it's so difficult to imagine what could have happened. It just breaks my heart, Seggy. It does. It breaks my heart. You know, it has captured all of our hearts, Brenda. Yeah, and I'm sure they're going to have to search it too, Shadow. He has full faith Sebastian is coming home, and I try and have the same faith. I do too. I do too, girl mom. I do. I know we all do. I know it's so hard. I know it's so hard. Hey, Sandwich. Yeah, the neighbors have a pool. There's a couple of in-ground pools in the area as well. And usually those have like an electric cover that just comes up across of them. Um, the above ground pools is what I was really interested in at first, but then I realized, Sebastian's not just drawn to water that way, you know. Aw, thanks, Siggy. Yeah, yeah, he does listen, and I don't know when he is in here and when he's not. He's welcome to come in here anytime he wants, and he knows that. He could talk, he could say whatever he needs to say in here. Um, you know, but I can't imagine how difficult that would be. Hey, Freebird. Oh my goodness. Hey, Freebird says, I'm just now hearing about the cemetery, not caught up on that, but has anyone considered the 911 call? A guy near the cemetery in that area. Crime Time Buzz had it. Oh, okay. See, and that's another, I haven't been able to listen. Aw, it's so good to see you, Freebird. That's a good question, though. That is a really good question. I have not heard that. Very interesting. Crime Time Buzz did a video of the 911 radio that day they searched for Sebastian. Okay. Oh, great. All right. Well, I'll have to go look. Is it an older video or is it new? Is it something she kind of just put out? IML says, I also didn't have time to follow everything at all times of the day. I have other things going on in my life. I could get things wrong. I'm human. I know, and we all are, we all are. We're all just doing the best we can do. That's why I just always want to put that message out that none of us are working harder than the others. None of us are. And guys, the only people that are going to say that kind of stuff are people that are looking to cause drama and discourse between creators. And I know they mean well, and they're just, it's their favorite creator, and they want, to be, they want to go to bat for their favorite creator, and I understand that completely. But we also have to remember that everybody's working hard, and if only one person is being told, oh well, you're doing the most, that's not a good thing. That is creating drama, whether they know that they're doing that or whether they don't. That's all it's doing, right? And it's appreciated when we're praised, or and when our hard work is recognized, it's always a wonderful thing, right? It's a good feeling. But I would just be really hesitant, to say to well, even when it's been said to me, it's kind of an awkward feeling, right? Because I know that I'm not doing this on my own, even though I'm, a one lady channel or whatever, and I have people on the panel and stuff. But you guys sending me stuff, and you guys helping me with research and things like that, I could never do this without you guys. I never could, right? And that goes for every creator. Every creator, as soon as you start doing lives and stuff like that, will have people sending them things, right? I have so many people sending me photos of the graveyard that night, of them saying that they see people in the graveyard. And I'm not talking about dead people. I'm talking about they could see that there's people in the graveyard. And I'm like, "Oh my god," right? And some of these pictures are wild, y'all. You know? I think CP would try to get that 50K too. He's always worried about money, girl mom. He sure is always worried about money. Um, you know? And when Chimama says, when creators argue amongst themselves, it should stay between them, not public. I tend to leave both channels for a bit till things calm down. Well, and it is uncomfortable for people. It really is. And like I said, even like when it was brought into the Discord, I was like amazed, because and it was one person that did this, right? This is not a bunch of people, and I don't want anybody to feel like, they're involved when I'm talking about this one person. Went from channel to channel to channel in the chat and was bad mouthing me, right? Which is fine. They have every full right to do that and to tell their opinion and how they feel. But then they came into my Discord and made everybody feel uncomfortable and was bad mouthing me in my Discord. And I'm like, what? And everybody was like, I'm not dealing with this, right? Nobody wants to deal with that, witchy. And because you guys like and respect all of us, right? And that's how it should be. We should all have respect for each other, you know? So, yeah, and I mean, and Siggy, it's important for us all to feel comfortable talking without it causing, a lot of issues. Cuz we never know whose comment we're going to discount, and they were completely right. That's what always, I'm always on the lookout for. Hey, Jules, that's why I'm so, adamant about reading people's comments, because, I really, really, really want people to be heard, and I don't want to miss something really good. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Here we go, guys. I'm going to go ahead and play this. Oh, and I also wanted to say thank you. Jules, thank you so much for coming in, because I almost forgot. Guys, I don't want you guys to forget that Jules told us that the FBI had involvement, right? We know that because of the flyer and everything, but she was also saying things are heating up on the back end of things, right? So just so everybody knows, that, you know, is was in the works before this too. So if the FBI is aware of this, which I believe they are, then they're on it. You know, they're on it.
Leave his link to his channel in my description. You see the lights there. You can go back and watch my video. I dropped a short of this video I'm going to end this video with, 45 seconds. But before that, there was a video where I had clips from Mob Crew's footage. Thanked the neighbor for allowing him to share this with everyone. And if you look at those lights, especially the lights he discovered over near the school that do the little turnaround, that could be the quote unquote scout, to where allegedly, in my opinion, Katie was there the next morning. That would be the night before he went missing, the night of his disappearance, and the next morning, hours away. What was she doing there if she was? Train. We're here in Atlanta, train. But so I just want to be direct and say that with those lights there, those nights, and not 2 nights before, and not the night after, and with the test we ran, thank you locals for what we did out there. Boots on the ground, silvers on the scene. That's what we do. We're silvers on the scene. We go to the scene, and when you get there, if you've never gone to a scene before, when you get there, your mind opens up. Possibilities flow in. Ideas, theories, and that's all it is, theory. But I want to be direct.
Okay, guys, and I agree wholeheartedly with this, right? If you've never been to the scene, right? And sometimes I think of Sebastian's house in that neighborhood as being the scene. You really don't know. And the area is so compact with all of the activities that they did that day, with everything that transpired, everything being so super close to each other. You don't realize that unless, you know, you live in the community, you're very familiar with Hendersonville. Also, you know, there's Goodlettsville. You don't realize until you're there. And I think that that's very important for any creators that are covering Sebastian's case to go there, please. And when you go there, make sure you go there during the time that everybody's going to be standing with Seth. That's the most important thing that we can do together also. So I just want to put that out there. But once you go there, you will have a completely different view, or it might solidify your theories. And what Silvers is talking about, in my opinion, from what I'm listening to and I'm hearing from him, is that once you go, it's a totally different experience, you know? Yeah, Shauna, and that's the thing. It's tough. And thank you for being here. You know, I think that has happened a lot, and I think there are certain people out there, well, actually, I know that there are certain people out there that want, you know, to be the one. I'm the only one looking for Sebastian. No, you're not. I'm the only one talking about Sebastian. No, you're not. I'm the only one that cares about Sebastian. No, you're not. No matter what a YouTuber tells you guys, please don't believe them. Sebastian's army is Sebastian Strong, you know? So, okay, Shauna, so you know the area. Yeah, it's very strange. That was my thought. That was my thought when I entered the neighborhood. Well, twice, you know. Yeah. So, but yeah, don't believe any of those creators or people saying, "Oh, the group is so small now that's looking for Sebastian." That's not true. That's not true, or we wouldn't have his flyer up in Kentucky on a storefront. That's not true. That person's lying to you. Right, but we're not going to mention any names. Just please believe me when I say that.
On this, if I wasn't direct enough before. And I'll say I without bringing in the locals or the mob crew. Even though I believe we all feel the same, I'll just use this as this is my video to say where my car lights are facing, how we light that Columbrium up, how when I turn my bright lights on, it illuminates the entire area, how that, well, you'll see in the last 2 photos, one taken recently showing a couple of small graves there without headstones. Tells me they're new. And another photo you've already seen, I'll show again, to where they're not there. And those headlights are facing west towards the mob cruise footage, towards that home. Could a car have backed in and laid Sebastian to rest? Because that, allegedly, in my opinion, is my theory.
Okay, guys, you heard it from the man's mouth. And I did not misinterpret his theory. I did not. I listened very well, and I watched Silver's video twice before we reviewed it. Right? Just to make sure I was getting it, just to make sure I was understanding it because that's why I don't like to do reaction. Because the first time I saw it, I was like, well, what do they mean the night? Oh, well, they would never go back. They would never go back. The night that he was reported, but they were talking the morning, right? And so then once I got that understanding out under my belt, oh, okay, so if they're saying that 2 mornings in a row, there was this strange activity in the cemetery, well, then maybe there's something to it, right? And I will say too, and I want to apologize because I also lost control of and going back and forth with people, which I shouldn't have been doing. I should have just ignored the chat and gone on with what Mr. Silvers here is saying. So that way, we would have had a more productive conversation. Um, so that was my fault too. And moving forward, I will handle that differently as it comes in. Again, I'm just not used to the drama at this channel ever, and I'm not used to having people upset with each other in the chat. But that's going to happen. That's going to happen, and Siggy, yes, please don't contact the church. Thank you for that reminder. They've contacted everybody, right? And I said the same thing in Devlin's case. Please don't contact, the police. They're well aware. They have all of the proof that someone is deleting posts from Devlin's account. Girl Mom 2 says, remember in KP's interview when she said, consider the source of information? Yes. How would she know what information is relevant if she doesn't know what happened? Oh, boom. All right, there we go. Wouldn't she want any information? I would think so. I would want everybody to tell me things, right? Even so that way I was aware. And I know that that's tough. But I would want to know and exactly how does she know what information is good versus what information is not, in terms of like irrelevant or relevant. So great point, girl mom. And again, if we listen, this is the little nuggets that we were talking about earlier, is like if we really listen to what KP is saying, then we can get a little bit more we can kind of read between the lines, so to speak. So yeah, that's such a great point. Thank you, girl mom. And Shauna says, I don't mean to bombard you. I was interviewed early on and I'm not monetized. It's not about that. I still have the buttons, the pins, lanyards, magnets, my lord. I work this child every day. Oh, thank you, Shauna. See, and I'm so glad that you came in and let us know that, because there are so many people that no one knows about that is working behind the scenes, right? And so that, oh my gosh, that makes me feel so good. It really does. And for me, it's the more the merrier. It's the more the merrier, because the more people, especially that are there, that can help. I mean, that's beyond what many of us can do. But everybody's important, even people praying for Sebastian. I know that that doesn't seem like it does a lot, but it does. It's everything, you guys. It's everything. And so even if it's somebody who, say, is an older person, right, that's just listening about Sebastian and offering ideas and theories and praying for Sebastian, that is the best thing that we can do. you know um I know. I want to see a little bit more follow through. And Sam, I did ask if there's if they're going to show like where what the other person was seeing, cuz like that's the one little piece that I'm looking for. I'm not entitled to that though. And I'm not going to demand it, and I'm not going to ask, I'm not harassing anybody over it or anything like that. That is, to me, that's up to them to show that, right? But I am going to ask about it, and hopefully I don't get in trouble, or they don't, they're not mad that I ask, but I have to ask, right? Because it's one of the questions that I have. If I don't have any questions, then it's not an effective video either. Because anytime I put out a video, and I don't know, I can't speak for other creators, but when I put something out, it's my perspective, and I want you guys to tell me what you think. I want you guys to ask me questions. I want you guys to engage with me, because if you're not, then that shows me that I didn't do a good job. If you are asking me questions and I'm getting your brain and your gears are shifting, right? Then I know that I did a good job. Then I know that I got you guys thinking. And as a creator, I can't ask for more than that. I really can't, because that's all I'm asking of you, is to tell me honestly how you feel. And I want you all to trust that when I tell you honestly how I feel, it's honest. It's not watered down, because I'm afraid I might upset someone, or, somebody might not be a member anymore that was before. Somebody might unsubscribe from me. If I worked my channel like that, I wouldn't be doing the best I could do for the victims. Right? I wouldn't be doing the best I could do for you guys as members of the community. If I just lied to you guys and just went with the popular opinion all the time. Women's Warrior says, Lady, I'm skeptical about all of this, and I think it's so much. I think that it would be more low key if they were going to put him there. Maybe it's another distraction to see the real goings on. I was wondering about if maybe there was some staged. I'm glad that you said that, Women's Warrior. I was wondering if maybe there was some staged activity in the two nights to kind of draw attention where it shouldn't be. Um, yeah, I thought about that too. And and I know that there's a lot of distractions. And that was the reason that I was so curious on who the source of the information is. Oh gosh, and here we're going back to what Katie said. But I always consider the source. Right. So when I'm considering the source of Mob Crew, I'm like, okay, check mark green. If I'm considering the source as Silver's on the scene, check mark green all day long. I don't even have to think about it. But when we're talking about locals, and especially a local that has inserted herself on both sides of the case, I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical, Woman's Warrior, and it's nothing to do with Chris or Silver's. So, oh, okay. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely email me. And I'm gonna get caught up on my emails too, you guys. I apologize. And that was another thing that I could relate to what Mob was saying about his emails getting over flowing over, not having time to get back. It's tough. It is. And like I said, I'll read an email and I'll be so happy. I'm like, oh, that's so great. And then I'll mean to get back. And then somebody will send me a text. And then I go over to the text and I read that, and I'm like, squirrel, and that's when Terry Bowersock said that that's how Sebastian is, well, that's how I can be sometimes. It's an information overload, and having the time to process it is a lot, means a lot to me. And Shauna says, oh, anything that went on, anytime my kid went missing, I want to know who, where, when. Exactly. We want to put the pieces together when we don't know. We're desperate to put the pieces together, Shauna. That's a great point. Yeah. Oh, no. And see, that's another thing. I've been doxxed, I've been drugged through the mud. I think anybody who has worked on Sebastian's case has been. And if you haven't been, ugh, I'd be looking over my shoulder. I'm kind of glad they're already done with me, you know. That's why I was like, oh, we can't have this. because we can't attack others for opinions. I will never be afraid to tell you guys how I feel. I never will be. I'll always stand on how I feel, right? Um, if I get other information to the contrary, then of course I'm going to change it and I'm going to tell you guys, okay, look, this is what I thought originally, but now this has come to my attention, right? And if you don't stay open minded, then we're just like Sheriff Snuggle Struggle, operating under the assumption that Sebastian did one thing or the other, right? Even though he has no proof of it, right? And that's another thing. Show me the proof. I need to see it, right? Because I can't just go with somebody like with what they say, you know. And thank you, Shauna. Thank you. And Canine Jules has been a member for 8 months. Oh, thank you, Jules. I love you too. She says, love you, girly. Grateful for your friendship. Thank you so much, Jules. And thank you too for, sending people over that want to talk on a platform because, my platform's still small enough to where I think people don't feel overwhelmed with it, and I'm so grateful to talk about new cases. Um, Girl Mom says also CP is on Reddit in the Sebastian Rogers thread, and his name is Boudica. He argues with everyone. Oh my gosh, I'll have to go over there. I had no idea about that. Oh Lord. I've been on Reddit, but that was only because people were sending me information about Terry Lynn. Now there was that Reddit post. I have not tried to confirm or deny that with Seth, by the way. I don't plan on it. I really don't. I think anybody could say anything, in that regard. I don't I will say this about the name. I don't know why Sebastian would have a name of Alpha Wolf, but I might be wrong. You know, I don't know. I just pictured Sebastian having like, you know, more of maybe a Star Wars reference for his name, or I don't know, or maybe I'm not seeing the reference, but um he's very rational and smart. Oh, Silvers is. Yeah, Joe. Joe says, lady, this is actually my first time seeing Silvers in a video. He may be wrong, but he seems like he's rational and smart. And he is very much so. And like I said, that's why whenever I consider him as a source, I have a green check mark by him, right? I'm like, verified, right? Because I mean, I've watched his videos in the past and I do find him to be credible, and so that's why even reconciling and processing it is different. So, oh my goodness, really, Shauna? Oh, I'll have to go over and look. I'll have to go look. Oh, KJ thinks, she says, I'm wondering if the footage was taken afterward with fake timestamps. I wonder how we would authenticate a timestamp. And I was wondering the same thing just because of where the video came from or where I'm understanding it came from. I could be wrong with where it came from, right? But just kind of following those crumbs. And again, it's important to protect sources. So I understand that as well. There might be some protecting of sources. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I understand that too, Shauna. I think that has a lot to do with it. I do. I think that it's hard. Um, no, we can't be doxing people, especially just because you don't agree with them. I mean, come on, that's harsh, right? Hey, little Miss Sharon, thank you so much for gifting a Lady Freedom's Raw Narratives membership. And if you got a membership from Little Miss Sharon, make sure you say thank you and welcome to the Dragon Tribe. Aw, that's great. Hopefully it was one of our peeps in here. Oh, thank you, Chuchi. Oh, welcome to the Dragon Tribe. If you got a membership from Chuchi, and make sure you say thank you. Aw, you guys are great. Yes, and the amount of time I've spent thinking of Drake and Wayne, different handles Sebastian could use, things I've never unpicked. Well, yeah, I guess that's my thing, Shauna. That's well said. And that was one of the things I was considering. I'm like, would Sebastian think he's an alpha wolf? But then I started thinking, like, maybe he, felt empowered to be in there. But then again, I remember Seth saying that he didn't have his own, like, well, I mean, Chris said it too. He doesn't have his own gamer tags. Um, but even when it came to at Seth's house, and here's the thing, if Sebastian would have went missing from Seth's house, then the theory behind him meeting someone online would be more acceptable to me, and I would consider it more heavily than I would if since that he, but knowing that he was at his mom's house when this happened and he didn't have that type of freedom, if you will, then that makes me wonder about that as well. So that's where I'm stuck. Because and here's the thing, guys. Sebastian didn't have his cell phone at the Texas Roadhouse. Now, we didn't see him on uh surveillance at any other point, but we can kind of deduct, right, that he wasn't playing with a phone or his cell phone during dinner, right? Katie was on her phone, but Sebastian was not. And, and then also his phone was left behind. And then there was no indication, I would think that if I would think it would be very easy, for example, if Sebastian talked to someone on Roblox and then he decided to leave out with them, but he left his phone behind because the person told him, leave your phone or we can get tracked, right? But but yeah, they would have been communicating on some sort of platform, right, for texting back and forth, and that would have been checked into, in my opinion, I would think, even though I know we can't trust law enforcement in this, but I'm just going to say that I would think that it would be very easy to track that conversation if that's what transpired, you know? Oh, absolutely, Shauna. Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Just feel free to come in the chat and chat with us. That means the world to me too. Hey, Brenda Sue. Brenda Sue says everyone that is talking about Sebastian's case is doing good. It's not a competition. That's right. We just got to find him. And I think, Brenda, I think a lot of people are just so frustrated at this point, you know? Oh my gosh, Shauna, I'm so sorry. And thank you for saying that, Brenda Sue, because that means a lot to me too. I think everybody is doing a great job, and I think that as long as there's good intentions behind what they're doing, it's all positive. Thank you, Canine Captain Jules, for the 199 super sticker. And she says, Sebastian, Devlin, Zachary, Cherry, and Summer. Aw, thank you. That's right, guys. I mean, little Summer, she's just another beautiful little child I wanted to highlight in that video, because I know that she's been missing now 4 years. But it's so tough. Ooh, that sounds so good. That is really good. I've made the white chocolate popcorn and then drizzled like it was like hugs, because then I put like the regular chocolate on there. Ooh, that sounds so good, Cinderella. Sweet and salty mix is always a good thing. Um, yeah, drop Shauna's channel for sure. And another thing, y'all kids just need Wi-Fi. Kids rent out old phones all the time, and parents just do not listen or pay attention. It's dangerous world out there. Well, Shauna, I will say my daughter, when I grounded her from her cell phone, I think it was maybe a day or 2 later at the most, and she had another phone that she bought from school from one of her classmates, and she just, like, handed them a 20 or something. I don't know how much she paid for it. All I know is that there was a mysterious phone that was linked to my internet, and that's how she was caught. She's probably gonna kill me for telling that story. But, I mean, it just kids are so smart. They are so smart and they're so tech savvy, you know? They're so tech savvy. They can really just get um they could just get technology anywhere. Or hey, maybe their friend borrowed them a phone for overnight. Like yeah, absolutely. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Shauna, and thank you for your super chat. Aw, that's so sweet. Yeah, so I mean, oh good. Yeah, sub up to Shauna. I'm gonna go over and sub up after too. But I mean, so that's one of the things that I consider that too, especially if they're like if it's so strict. Like I always laugh at Chris Proudfoot because he thinks he can control everything, you know? And it's just like when Katie said, oh, or excuse me, when he said to Queen Bee, when I'm away, Katie lets the dog sleep with her. And I thought, well, bingo, but how would he know that unless he was watching Katie? Right? So they had cameras in the house. They had to have, and even Nina said they did. "Hey, Pamela, good to see you." So, aw, thanks, guys. Yeah, there is so much to talk about. And we can theorize, and we have to do that, guys. That's the only way we're gonna come up with answers. So we have had a couple of really interesting things popping off here. And I'm going to continue on with Silvers because he's going to explain some of the ways that we can tell if Sebastian is in fact there. Because look, as far as I can tell with what they've put out, they can pinpoint where this grave was dug, right? So they know it's not like, oh, he might be in the woods behind the cemetery. They're saying that they have the location pinpointed. So I think that's important to recognize too. That's right. Sebastian Strong and bring Sebastian home. Oh gosh, and it's scary out there too. How many people get so caught up and they want to attack each other, and it's scary. It's scary because we need to be able to have our own opinions. We need to be able to do that. For anyone who's stifling that, they do not want to know the truth. Jenny, thank you for being here. Says Lady, I agree. What's smarter than I was with the technology these days? It's scary. The kids know. Oh, Jenny, they're so good. They're so good. Oh yeah, upgrading the security system, Jules. Yeah, don't forget. Thank you. Don't let us forget about that. Hey Tessa. Tessa says there were reports of many neighborhood cameras not working properly and timestamps being off of someone driving through the neighborhood in the middle of the night up to the week before. What if far-fetched that was done so they could collect old footage and plant it as being footage from the night so they wouldn't be caught on camera, and the footage did see of the lights had a messed up timestamp. Oh my gosh, I know, Tessa. That is the one thing that is so weird, right? And so we did like a pajama jammer party the one night, and I was just kind of being silly with it. But like from everything that I understand, there are jammers that can jam up the frequency, right? But that can only happen on a Wi-Fi camera. The hardwired cameras would have to be hacked into, and I do believe that the house, um, I mean, we just call it the mob crew house. I mean, that's what I've always called it. Um, where that camera footage was supposed to be coming from the lights. Um, yeah, that camera was hardwired. So the only way that that could have happened was for someone to have hacked that camera, in my opinion. Girl Mom 2 says that's the problem with their story is they acted like they were such great parents by keeping Sebastian off the internet in case of a predator, but he still goes missing. And that's so crazy, Girl Mom. That is so true. I mean, it was like when we say we lock it down, we lock it down. And he was never on social media and all of this stuff. And then, Seth comes out and says, but he was on it at my house, right? So Seth is being transparent, you know. Um he was being super transparent and he was saying, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. what happened at their house is different from what happened at my house. And in my opinion, if Seth had something to do with Sebastian's disappearance, or if he thought because he gave internet access to his son, right, which he did, he wanted people to consider that. And he came out and told us that information, you know? Um, he sure did. Kids are way smarter. Thanks, Jenny. Yeah, kids are. They're super smart little things. You know, they're very tech savvy because they're it's not like us when we were growing up. You know, we had a paper and pencil, right? They literally grow up with this technology. So and Shauna says, Chuchi Sleuth, thank you all so much. Please remember, I was concussed and it was really bad in really bad health. So I come off a little crazy. Oh, not at all, Shauna. No, don't think that. But when CP starts messaging you, it's hard to stay calm. Oh, definitely. You know, that's one person that I would never want to have a conversation with just because of the way he's acted towards others, you know. Um, she does have a lot of knowledge and connections. She does. And it would be a highly sophisticated computer that would be able to hack into something like that as well, just so everybody knows. So, she could have had help, definitely. Right. My blood pressure does go up as well, Chuchi, right? Right when he starts talking. Um, Right, and that is so weird, Gina. KP told someone on Facebook, "We don't need the details, only LE does." But, at this point, you would think that she would be trying to get that information out, right? Like, to the public, anything, especially when people are saying, "Well, we don't believe that Sebastian even made it home." The first thing I would do is let you guys listen to the audio of him actually making it home with me, right? Like, to prove to people, like, I'm not lying. But she never shows that proof or evidence. Yeah, they locked it down. Yep, they locked it down to prevent him getting help from speaking out, from Googling the things that were happening to him to confirm that he was being abused, in my opinion, not to keep him safe. That is a good point. Well, we know for sure that Seth said that he was Googling how to deal with bullies. And, bullies come in all shapes and forms, and we know that Sebastian was being bullied by Aunt Melissa because we have a video that shows him being bullied on his birthday party. Of all days, you know? Babs says I told my son I'm reducing him to one bowl and a plate because he never cleans up his dishes. He just ordered a new set of 4 bowls. Oh my gosh, off of Amazon. Oh, Babs, that's too funny. See, these kids are like, "Oh, okay, really?" Or it's just like Devlin. He didn't want to do his chores, which I could agree. Some of the chores, in my opinion, were a little bit too much, but either way, he just went to town and plugged his phone in. He found electricity. Right? I mean, these kids are just so smart. It is heartbreaking, Jules. It is. It is. But they're so smart. There was a car going up and down Kellen, maybe to jam the Wi-Fi for the cameras, allegedly. I wondered that too. And that's a great point, Shadow. So I guess I didn't finish my thought on that either, because that was another thing that we were considering when it came to how they were jammed up, right? Because some of those jammers you have to be close, but other ones you don't. So like even, the one that, if they were hacking a camera, for example, they wouldn't have to be right there. But if they were jamming it up, they would have to be in close proximity in order to do that. You know, I wonder if anybody would know if there was any weird cars like in the construction area that night. I mean, surely law enforcement would, but they're very industrious and they're so resourceful. Kids are, they really are. Um, I think they kept him off the internet just to punish him. I think so. And also with no phone. He's not allowed to have a phone, you know? So It drives me crazy how no cameras caught anything useful. Well, that's the thing. I mean, Tessa, and that's what makes me believe that maybe Sebastian didn't make it home, right? If the 3 a.m. lights are not what we think they are, which I really do think they are, um, but if they're not, then how did he get out without being caught on any cameras at all? Like, that is just mind-boggling to me, right? Chuchi says, my son's got 5 discords on the school Chromebook. Oh my goodness. Oh my, see these kids, they do it. Even if we tell them they can't, especially when we tell them they can't. So that's why I'm thinking, and Sebastian's very smart. So, all right, guys, let's go back to Silvers here.
So, where do we go from here? The board members have all this information. Church board members. Law enforcement has this information. I feel confident both are going to be pursuing it. I feel confident we'll have an answer shortly and soon. And then either A, as I feel, Sebastian's there, and we can start moving forward, getting justice for him and his family, or B, he's not there and I'm completely wrong, and the search will continue. Because as we started this video, ignore more. No distractions in finding Sebastian Rogers. He's been gone now 675 days. 675 days. 1 year, 10 months, and tomorrow will be a week. 1 year, 10 months, 6 days, as of January 2nd, 2026. And as we know, he disappeared on February 26th, 2024, and that is coming up with just in a few months, less than a few months. So if we are right, if I am right in my theory, allegedly, my opinion, disclaimer on the wall, Sebastian Rogers is in that cemetery where my lights are facing. So I'm asking law enforcement, I'm asking the church, let's move forward with this. Let's get this test done. Non-invasive. That's the thing I want people to know too. People are resting in peace here. Family members have loved ones who are no longer with us in this cemetery.
Okay, sorry guys. I just wanted to stop that right there. So I agree with what Silvers is saying. And again, we have to show the utmost respect to the people, even if we do believe that Sebastian is there, right? Because obviously we want to find him, right? And but we also have to realize that there are people that are buried there, and also we kind of got a little bit into this conversation a bit um about how when you buy a plot in a cemetery, is it the cemetery's property or is that particular spot your property? If that makes sense, right? Because you're buried there, right? So we got into that conversation. Guys, in true crime, the really neat thing about getting into some of these topics is that even though even if it's not what happened in Sebastian's case, there could be other cases where this could be useful as well. So it's good to have these conversations because we know historically, right, in the past, people have been buried like this in cemeteries, right? Some people were placed in the coffin, right? So it's kind of more of a mob style of practice. But it doesn't discount it. People it's monkey see, monkey do. People model each other, right? What other people have done in the past, and especially how they can get away with it. So very important not to it's more important to discuss these topics and upset some people and ruffle some feathers than it is to completely never talk about this stuff and just act like it doesn't exist, right? Because Sebastian could be there. I'm not saying he's not. I don't believe that he is, but I think that it's important. Hello, Detroit. I think that it is very important for us to at least examine this area. For sure, right? So, again, I'm going to let Silvers go, and then we're going to do a little bit of research from what he's talking about, the techniques that we wouldn't disturb anybody's eternal resting place, but we could still find out that Sebastian is or isn't there. And, mark that off of our list. And again, a big shout out and thank you to Silvers and Silvers 1 and 2 for going out and doing these searches and these tests. This is important, right? Very important.
And our goal is to not disturb any of that. Non-invasive, there are non-invasive test techniques to determine if someone is in a spot underground without disturbing anything. And that's the plan. So there we go. I just want to clarify that. You're going to be left with the 45-second video where my lights are facing, cemetery, 400 yards from the footage, approximately 450 yards from Sebastian's home. Okay, 500 yards would be 1,500 feet. 520, 80 would be 2,700 feet is half a mile. So this is less than half a mile. Look at the stats on missing people. Half a mile from their home. I feel bad that he could be there, but I think he is. I feel bad that he could be there, and I hope I'm wrong. So, 45-second video, the 2 photos showing that a car could have backed down, produced those lights that Mob Crew has. Just being very direct and very straightforward, as I always am. Thank everyone for your support. Say his name. It's the least we can do. Say his name, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. No distractions. Ignore more. Happy New Year 2026. And thank you for the comments. Thank you for the emails and suggestions, because as I've said from the start, it's going to take us all to find Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. So, is he in this cemetery 1,500 feet approximately from his home? Gone 675 days, 1 year, 10 months, 6 days. Where is Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers? Say his name. Enjoy this last 55 seconds or so, this video and these 2 photos. Comments, suggestions, let me know. And as always, thank you for tuning in, and stay tuned. Silver's on the scene. More to come. Thank you. Okay, to document where I'm at, come in the cemetery this way, go around, it loops around. I took the turn right here, and I've come down to where I'm sitting right here. So watch this. Of course, when my light's off, you can't see anything. If I turn my lights on, I can see just graves and grass. But imagine for a moment that some...
And I'm sorry, guys, I'll rewind this just a little bit because I don't want to, take away from what he's saying here. I just want to point out that, look at all of this. That was put out for Christmas, We have people that come and decorate the graves, a lot of them, guys. Even though it's a historic cemetery, there are people who, are very much going into the cemetery in order to decorate these graves and that sort of thing. So I just wanted to point that out because I know we talked about it earlier. And let me go ahead back here so we can make sure we get his video good.
Cemetery this way, go around, it loops around. I took the turn right here, and I've come down to where I'm sitting right here. So watch this. Of course, when my light's off, you can't see anything. If I turn my lights on, I can see just graves and grass. But imagine for a moment that somebody was there and said, hey, I can't see. Turn your high beams on. Of course, it opens up the whole area. I see more. And what do I see? The monument. And they're telling me they can see it on the camera, just like the footage we've been looking at. Boom!
Okay, guys, and really quick, I did ask Silvers if he has the footage that they were looking at so we can see what they're looking at. The only reason, and this is the only reason I can come up with, that they might not want to show that vantage point is because they don't want whoever's home that they're referring to the camera being at to be known. That's the only reason I would think that they would decline to show the full picture here, so to speak. So here we go. And this is the spot that they're thinking that Sebastian could have been put. Oops, sorry. Hold on, let me go back just a tad to those pictures. So this is the spot. He's circled here. Is where they think, right? Because he backed up over here somewhere. Sorry if I'm getting the wrong angle or whatever, but it's being said that this is where they think that this could have happened. Right? And then here's from another angle the same spot. So and awareness is the key, right? In order to find Sebastian, we have to have more people aware and more people thinking and looking. Yeah, Little Miss Sharon, I know. So again, from that perspective, they can pinpoint where they're at, you know, so that is a good thing. At the very least, they know the area that they're looking in, right? So let's talk about what techniques would be used, right? So what I did is I just plugged in what techniques are used when a person is suspected to be buried in someone's grave. And I hope that I, worded that in order to get the best response, right? Because it's all about, what you ask and how you ask it on Google. But that's how I asked it. And it says that when a person is suspected to be buried in someone's grave, various techniques are employed to locate and recover the remains. These include physical searches, right? Divers may be used for water-related incidents and specialized techniques like ground-penetrating radar for the soil investigations, right? So this is a big one here, right? Because what they can do is they can look to see if there's an anomaly within, and if someone has greater knowledge of the ground-penetrating radar, please let me know. But they're using that technique in order to not disturb anything, but they can find any anomalies within the soil, right? So that's the first way. Remote sensing techniques. So methods such as infrared, aerial photography, and electromagnetic devices like ground penetrating radar, soil recidivity, or conductivity meters, right? And metal detectors are utilized to identify anomalies in the ground, right? So again, that's kind of how they're doing that in order to figure that out. Geophysical methods are techniques like ground penetrating radar, and other geophysical methods are employed to detect soil structure and compaction changes after a burial, right? So if a body is properly buried one time, right, then it's going to be more uniform, for lack of a better way to say it. But if someone disturbed that process, it would be able to be seen through the ground penetrating radar, right? And also aerial reconnaissance, right? So air reconnaissance observations from helicopters can determine the context of outer limits and search area, right? So they did have helicopters up the first 7 days that Sebastian was missing, and we also had people searching that cemetery as well, like Jen, Jeff, Aaron was one of them, Seth. They had a dog named Malice that came out to assist. So it's not like this area has not been looked into, but things can be overlooked, right? And we also have cadaver dogs, right? In disaster scenarios, cadaver dogs may assist in locating remains obscured by debris. These techniques are essential for the systematic and efficient location of human remains in cases of crimes, accidents, and natural disasters. They also play a crucial role in the recovery of deceased individuals and investigation of a manner of death, right? And so, um, let's see. It goes into buried body locating. Um, we also can do soil analysis, right? It says we could do soil analysis. Um, and of course, the forensic archaeology and things like that would come into play after when they find bones, right? If and when they find the bones. Um, but I didn't get, the very, very, very best answer, I don't think, by this search. Maybe we could say what test tests, whoops, are performed when a body, is suspected to be buried on top of another, well, see, I'm getting too far into it. Buried in a grave. All right. What tests are performed when a body is suspected to be buried in a grave? When a body is suspected to be buried in a grave, forensic experts may perform several tests to gather information about the circumstances of death. These tests include forensic toxicology, so to determine the presence of drugs or poisons that may have contributed to death, DNA analysis. See, this is more for the person once they find them. And I just don't think they would have enough time to actually put him into another person's casket, if that makes sense. Ground penetrating radar is highly advanced and amazing as long as the person, as the right person is working it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense, Jules. Thank you. Yeah. I don't think so, Babs. I don't think so. I can imagine that if they actually, think that they're going to stay on top of, following up. I do want to also say, and I know people were getting really, really upset with this, but again, I have to tell you guys the truth. Um, Law enforcement is not going to work with any of us YouTubers, right? Because we're not law enforcement. There's tons of reasons why, right? But they will take the information that we give them, but they're not going to follow up with us or let us know the outcome until it becomes public. I mean, they may do us a courtesy, obviously, if we're the ones that help to solve the case, to call us and let us know when that happens, when they're found or something. I can see them doing that, but it's just like in Devlin's case. Again, I gave them the information and they're not going to call me about it. They're just not. They're not working with me, on that. They're taking the information in, and so please don't think that any of the YouTubers, any of us are working with law enforcement. We're not. Law enforcement will take public information as in a tip, right? And that's what this is a tip. And it could be a good tip, Jules, do you know that, or do you know if the cadaver dogs would actually be able to differentiate between a person who has been deceased and embalmed, and then a person who has not been. Like, so in other words, someone who has been just placed in, in the ground without having that preservation process take place. See, but I'm not sure. See, and Babs, I'm thinking that they might have. Well, I don't know. It just depends, but I would think that they'd be able to tell if somebody had done something and then they put the casket on top. But maybe it was overlooked, Shauna, that's funny. Well, and I mean, they gotta be, they do get sick of us, and they don't, they're like, oh, these pesky YouTubers, And anytime I've called even Devlin's, detective and spoke with them, I'm very straightforward and I tell them I'm a YouTuber. Just so you know, in case you want to hang up. No, I'm just kidding, but they don't. They're very nice. Or they have been very, kind and respectful, and they can't give me any information that could jeopardize the investigation, so yeah, it was 6 minutes. Okay, so the most recent on mobs that I watched, he said 20 minutes total, I believe. Like, they left the cemetery after 20 minutes. But then again, I thought he was saying 20 minutes from the time that the silver car left the Victoria Place subdivision to the time of the activity in the cemetery. So that's why I'm thinking, gosh, that would have had to be like an in and out, like quick as can be, like boom, 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 and then, And I mean, I maybe they're also accounting for some of the time in the cemetery the night before, the morning before. And I'm just going to be careful not to call it a night, because I got it confused when it was being called night, because it would have been, technically morning time, still dark out, but oh, great. I got to call you tomorrow about what my boyfriend said about Devlin. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jules. Yes, absolutely. Give me a call. They can tell the difference. Thank you. Okay, so they can tell the difference. Very interesting. I would think there would be more odor given off, given that process had not, had taken place. I know, Women's Warrior, it's hard though. It's hard because I mean, when we speculate, it's not always going to be like 100% truthful. I mean, we could have good intentions behind it, right? And we could think it's true, and we're talking about it, but there could be no truth to it, and that's any of our theories, on what could have happened here, you know. I'm glad you're here, Jules, though, so we could get at least, good information for all intents and purposes. So, but it's tough. It's tough. I do too, Laura. Thanks for being here. I still want to believe Sebastian is out there somewhere. And I don't think that there's anything that really points to the fact that he's not. That's what's hard for me. That's where I get stuck, because I can't even definitively say that, and I probably wouldn't, because I know Seth comes in here, you know? So but if I had some definitive information like that, I would give it to him and let him know about it, you know? Um, Especially if you're willing to put it out there into the YouTube verse, because I know that was said too, where it's like, well, you don't want Seth to go over there and start digging the cemetery up. He's not that way. Seth is a logically, he thinks very logically. He would never want, and he's also a law enforcement officer, so he would not go tearing down to the cemetery and start, desecrating someone else's final resting place in order to find Sebastian, no matter how much he would want to do that. As a parent, I can understand that. But Seth is not, in my opinion, going to ever do something like that. And that's not to speak, for him. It's just, knowing what we know about Seth and how he's handled things thus far. Look, there's a lot of things that Seth has heard. I mean, look, some of us, the minute that we heard that Sebastian was being so badly abused and read the CPS reports, that would be enough for someone to go knocking on someone else's door, right? But he showed an amazing amount of restraint, and he showed an amazing amount of uh what's the word? It escapes me now. Self-control, right? Like he's not just like gonna go off and do something like that, in my opinion, because if he was, he would have already done it. That would have been enough to make me knock on someone's door and ask him what the hell they did to my kid. And he showed amazing self-control. you know Women's Warrior says, lady, but you will say if you don't know that it's a fact and not, you will always say it's alleged. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Well, thank you, Women's Warrior. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to do that too. Um, just to cover our own butts. Well, and now if I have a receipt of it and I'm showing you guys the proof, yeah, I mean, then I'm, saying, well, this is what I got. And I always hear hindsight. They're always saying allegedly, respectfully, in my opinion. But then when she had the receipts, she's like, this is a fact, right? This is public records, public knowledge. So she felt comfortable, presenting that as a fact. Um, hey Sam, yeah, Sam, laws need to change, making it where you making it just because you can't find the missing child, you can get life or just live your life. Yeah, maybe kids will stop vanishing. Well, Sam, I don't see why they don't show a certain amount of skepticism with someone who reports their child missing, like in Katie's situation, especially with nothing backing it up. That's what drives me nuts. Is like they don't have anything proving that Sebastian walked out, but they don't have anything proving that he even made it home or whatever. Like there's all these just unknowns. Yeah, I mean, Katie needs to be pulled in for proper questioning by the FBI, in my opinion, if that's not already happened. And I think about that and some of the things all have said. If Sebastian is hearing that, hearing Chris laughing on panels, yeah, talking about NSFW type, imagine Sebastian listening to that. Would you go home? No, I wouldn't. No, not at all. And that's a great point. I would not want to go home. That would send, like a PTSD response, right? Where you'd be like, "Oh, no, I'm never going back there." I mean, it would be like, "Thank God I'm where I'm at, even if it's not the best place." And, when we think about that and that dynamic, it's scary when someone's getting out of abuse, they might go back into something even worse or just something just as bad. And they'll deal with it because it's not as bad as, in their own perception of what they were enduring at the other location, so to speak. Bab says, except for the fact that none of his medications have been filled for almost 2 years, Eyeglass's script isn't renewed or filled. Very, very true. Very true. And, and the only thing that I can think to kind of like counter that, would be like if he's with somebody who doesn't care about that. How Sebastian must be feeling. It reminds me of when Chris McDonough talked about the questions that he asks, and that's one of the first things that he tries to kind of figure out or gauge a response is about medication, because only someone who is compassionate for that other person would be worried about them not having medications that they need, or that help them along and make things more manageable for them And so that sticks with me. And I'm so glad that you said that, Babs, because, we can look at it both ways, to where if he's with someone who doesn't care whether he can see or, and that just makes me feel so sad for him. But, yeah, I mean, we it would have to be somebody who actually cared about him that has him, you know? And I would think any of his medications or anything like that would be flagged, and how would they renew them without, a doctor's care? That's a great point. So, oh yeah, we love our Kiki True Crime. And that was another thing too, guys. I just wanted to say, I think I said it the other day, but in case, people weren't here, Kiki is a good friend of mine, and anytime we have a disagreement, we will call each other. And I never expect my friends, even my good friends, to always agree with me, you know? Um, because I want people to let me know how they feel or what they think about a subject, and if they're just tiptoeing around, then they're not giving you the real take on things. And and I don't want my friends to be afraid to tell me how they feel or what they think. But I know because of the other person that was, in my opinion, causing issues, is also named Kiki. So, not when I was referring in the live, because she texted me, she's like, "You weren't talking about me, were you?" And I was like, "No, not you, not that one," And I just wanted her to know, like, no, it wasn't. And I told her, I said, "I'm so sorry that you might have thought that was who we're talking about." So that got misconstrued, and she's like, "Just let everybody know that," and I was like, "Oh, I will." So, um, but it just has to. It's got to run its course. We're all gonna disagree at times, but we're gonna all agree on one thing, and that Sebastian needs to be found. You know, I wouldn't go home either. I wouldn't go home either. No, Jules. No, I'd be hiding out. No Cal or no NorCal SoGal says I heard that caller, but what struck me as odd is that she said it was 2016 to 17, and he said his son was autistic, but that diagnosis was only like a year before he went missing. Oh, exactly, NorCal SoGal. That is such a stellar observation. And that's why it's so important to keep the facts at the forefront, right? Because then we have, a point of reference, in order to go off of, and to say like, okay, but if that's true, this can't be true, and this is what we already know to be true, right? Unless it's up in the air still. Oh, I know. Exactly, Gina. Can you imagine if Sebastian saw the hands? He'd be like weirdos, and that is so weird. Like, I wouldn't know what to think if my parents did that. I really wouldn't, you know? Canine Joel says, yeah, but if he is in a facility allegedly with in-house doctors, they would fill it in-house. Very true, Jules. Very true. And look, guys, I hate to say this, and I'm not trying to be like racist against Hispanic people. I am half Hispanic, by the way, so don't come for me. But Mexico is totally different when it comes to medications and distributing things. It's different. It's not like we have over the counters and then we have prescribed medications. Some medications that are prescribed in the US you can get in Mexico as an over the counter, right? So it's a totally different government and system that we could be dealing with here, you know? So, oh, okay, Shauna, I'll go look. Yes, I made a video about the dynamic after I asked what do you want the community to know? It was so basic. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing, Holly. KK never mentions urgency or needing meds. No. As a matter of fact, she told us that Sebastian didn't even really need his medication, right? But I mean that he should be weaned off of whatever medications. So what mom, let me just put it out there like this. And this is to all of our moms out there or our parents, if you're a man in here, please feel free to tell me your opinion because men are parents too, right? But as a mom, if I didn't think my child needed medications, I would not give my child medication. Right? So why was she giving him the medication in the first place if she didn't think he needed it? Guys, some of those medications have some very serious and strong side effects, especially like ADHD meds, right? So, oh, we're open to all topics of conversation, Shauna. Feel free. I don't find it likely that he is in a facility. They would get in huge amount of trouble when it came out. Well, that's my thinking too, Tessa. I wonder. I'm like, could you imagine all of this going on this whole time? And then for him to just be in a school? Oh my gosh. What a twist, right? I wonder how they can explain that, you know? So, aw, thanks, Holly. Who are doctors that may be linked to them? That's a good question, Kai J. I'm just thinking Mexico, if she was down in El Cajon, I mean, like I said, guys, it's a different world down there. And I'm not trying to be hateful towards anyone's culture, trust me, but it's it's a different world. I mean, I've watched people get some really crazy botched surgeries and stuff like that for like plastic surgeries there and stuff. They don't have the regulations like we do in the US. And again, I'm not knocking anybody's culture or their country, how they run things. We have to look at the countries the Sox go to. There are countries that they go to where they can buy medicines over the counter without a prescription. Well, that's what I was thinking down by El Cajon, right? So, yeah, I think that's worth looking into as well. If he's in an inpatient place, they would fill his scripts in-house like behavioral places do. They fill internally, not external pharmacies. Exactly, Jules. Exactly. And I think that that's very important to differentiate between, someone who just has Sebastian, say, like Katie said, in a basement somewhere, right? That's her quote, not me. I did not say that. She did. She said that to Heather Cohen, the PI that was working the case, right? So if he was in a basement somewhere, yeah, he would need to get his prescriptions filled. But if he's in a facility and they have in-house doctors on site, then he would already be taken care of in that capacity. And as a matter of fact, some might say he's in a hospital type setting if that's the case, right? Where they have in-house doctors. So I think when we're narrowing the places that Sebastian could be for all of this time, we would have to look at that, and that would help us narrow it down, right? Who has on-site doctors, you know? Oh, I remember that too. Oh my gosh, who does that? Oh my gosh, you know? Mm. If he's in a facility, it could be anywhere, even abroad with a fake passport. Remember the trip the Bower Sox took 2 days after he went missing. Yeah, they've been to as far as I know, what is it? Puerto Rico and then Canada, you know? At one point, I was thinking that maybe a doctor friend finally got him diagnosed with autism only, 3 to 5 months before he came up missing, maybe just to get him in a placement for autistic children. Well, and those were the places I was originally looking at, Kai J, but then I understood that they were actually looking to put him in a behavioral center which would still, obviously have an on-site doctor, so it kind of opened up my lens of places because, that is weird that they yeah, I agree. That's weird that they got that diagnosis so shortly before he went missing. Sebastian went missing. Yeah. Yes, well, and see, and that's the thing, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, even inhalers and stuff like that are super cheap to get over there that are really, really expensive here. And different medications like that, Holly, that you can just get right over the counter, you know? So it's interesting. I worked in therapeutic group homes. The theory is never going to be undercover, low key insurance workers. Children would even blab their mouths like I seen the kid there. They trust me. Well, and that's true. They probably I could agree with that and see that. Yeah, like especially when there's a $50,000 reward. Yes, indigo. Yeah, me too. Me too. We have to. I know, Holly. I was wondering why At Night put that flyer out in Spanish, and I'm like, what? Okay, I'll share it. I share everything that people put out about Sebastian. I do. If somebody puts a flyer out, I'll share it as long as it's not like disrespectful or hateful or anything. But yeah, I shared it out, and I'm like, well, maybe that makes sense. Maybe they had this knowledge before hindsight, and BMW Coupe looked into it. Um, so that's a possibility. But there is no telling. I know, Holly. That's why we all just have to keep speculating. He would have weaned off the medications in 12 days. By day 31, he would be feeling off. By 45 days without, he would be okay. He wasn't on he wasn't on unusual medicines. And I mean, I agree with that too. I think a lot of it, a lot of times we go off medications or we should be on a medication and we stop taking it. Excuse me. So I can completely see that. you know and a lot of these are just to prevent the behaviors that are being seen by the parents, in my opinion. But I never hate on parents that give medications. I just wonder why you would give why would you give your child a medication if you didn't think it was needed or effective or working, or maybe a placement didn't work out, or maybe it did, but without Seth's knowledge or permission, maybe by fraud, which could be another charge, in my opinion. Well, and KJ, I thought about that too, and it really bothered me because I was like, if something happened in one of those schools, it's not like they're going to be like, yeah, you know, document it and say, yeah, he was with us in our school and something bad happened to him. You know, I mean, as a mom, my stepson was on medication for a long time, but his bio mom wouldn't give it to him, and he was a textbook case of needing it all with his ADHD. Sometimes parents just don't want to. Mm, I know, I understand that too. And I mean, I'm more for natural remedies myself, but then again, I understand that they're there for a reason if they can help. Parents, when they want their child to be doing well, they'll do anything to have that happen. And NorCal SoGal says it wouldn't surprise me for her to medicate him to keep him calmer around CP. Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's a great point, NorCal SoGal. Yeah, just to make sure that he's doing well. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No normal mom would not give their child medicine unless it's necessary, and then be so cavalier and nonchalant about him not having it. Yeah, I agree with that. That's a huge red flag. you know no, not the safest place, that's for sure. That's for sure, Holly. you know hey, 88K, good to see you. Anyone or or excuse me, anyone or facility who might be harboring him would face serious penalties for wasting so many resources on the searches and investigation. I agree. I agree. You know, oh, I'm sorry to hear that, woman's warrior. My dad has 3 types of dementia, and he's on some of the alleged medication Sebastian was on, antipsychotic, and can't just stop them. Need a gradual reduction, in my opinion. Yeah, I agree with that. Some medications can be easily bought online, and especially the ADHD stuff. I mean, a lot of college kids use that to study and stuff, so that's not as hard to get our hands on, is it, Shauna? I agree. Um, my concern is him being with people that aren't good people. I agree with that too. Yeah. Yeah, Gina, they sure have. They've lied to everyone, Seth, CPS about Seth, the courts, et cetera, and that's just what we know, in my opinion. Exactly, and it's probably just the tip of the iceberg, just the tip of the iceberg. Yeah, DHS would have to report. And El Cajon is only 30 minutes from Tijuana? Hmm. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Chuchi. 30 minutes, guys. I mean, that's and Tijuana is well, we'll just say um, anything goes. All right. I've never been there, but I've heard about it. Um near and I'm no way trying to, disparage anything. Um Neuro V says there would be a paper trail with any facility requiring insurance, in my opinion. I agree with that too, Neuro V. Yeah. So it's got to be some kind of underground situation, and who's paying for it, right? Or is Sebastian there being studied for some sort of, in a study of some sort? Because in that case, there might be some sort of a scholarship or um, something, you know? Yeah, where's Waldo? I know, I know. I bought powder with the talc in it when we were in Cancun in the spring. Normally, I wouldn't buy anything like that, but it was all they carried, and I really needed it. Yeah, yeah, and I mean, when you're there, if you have to, I remember this story, guys, and I don't know if you guys know of this show. It's called something like it's on Discovery. It's called like I Shouldn't Be Alive. And it's people's stories about, situations that they were in that they shouldn't have made it out of, right? But they did. And there was a story about a young man that was bit by it was a black widow spider. And he was bit twice because the spider was in his sock. So when he put his sock on, the spider was in there and the spider got pissed off and bit him twice, right? I say the spider got pissed off. I'm just assuming, right? Allegedly, the spider got pissed off and bit him twice. Because there was so much venom that was expelled during the bites, this child was in critical condition. He was rushed to the hospital, and the only anti-venom that was going to work was in Mexico. And his stepfather illegally smuggled this medication across the border into the United States. And then they had to find a doctor who was willing to administer this medication to this young man because, of course, there's different FDA regulations that we are required to follow, right? Physicians here in the States are required to follow when administering medications, and they can only administer approved medications. So they found someone who would do this for them, and the young man survived. Thank God, right? But they had to go into a whole nother country, right? And obtain this anti-venom. So it does happen, right? And I just wanted to give that as an example. Not saying that, that's how Sebastian's been getting his medications equivocally or anything. It's just um a thought, and something that I remembered. Yes, angry spider. Angry spider. That's right. Allegedly. I don't want anybody to get upset about me saying I know how the spider felt. No, I'm just kidding. Good night, Babs. Thanks for being here. And so, no, I mean, with that being said, that's kind of something that kind of stuck out to me. And Detroit says my ex-sister-in-law lied to doctors to keep my nephew medicated. Oh my gosh. He hated her, or he hates her now for doing that to him. Oh, I don't blame him. She kept him in zombified so she could control him. Oh, my brother had to go to court in order to stop her. Oh my gosh, Detroit. And that's the thing. I just think kids are supposed to be hyper, to a certain extent. Now, if it's interfering with school and stuff like that, I leave it up to the parents. But I mean, oh my gosh, I know that a lot of parents do that in order to make kids, more manageable. Um, Women's Warrior says Tennessee appears to be a major hotspot for child trafficking and missing children. In my opinion, I believe that all the people surrounding Sebastian Summer Wells are involved in the criminal network. I looked into that, Women's Warrior. I sure did. I sure did. Um, because within these trafficking networks, there are hubs, if you will. And the hubs are, these major spots where transporting is possible, right? So I have looked into that pretty heavily. There's nothing, in my opinion, to suggest that that would be a dead end, and I think it should be explored in Sebastian's case, in Summer's case. That's why I put that barrel. I have had a couple of pictures that I took stills of her dancing in front of that barrel that says for sale. So, yes, the spider was 100% female. Yes, Sam, because those are the ones that are more venomous. If I'm not mistaken. You can hear the truck yards I work around. It's terrifying. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna have to go check that out, Shauna. He was young enough to travel domestically without an ID. Maybe he was dressed up as a girl or another demographic, not his own, to get him on a plane without anyone being the wiser, especially if he had already been driven across the country overnight before the flight from an airport far, far from Hendersonville. I can't discount that either. I've thought about it, says Shauna. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she refers to the trafficking BS. That's right, NorCal SoGal. She sure did. Oh yeah, that trafficking BS, but he might be in somebody's basement. Well, what are they doing to him in the basement, Katie? I mean, there's got to be a reason that they're doing that. I mean, have you gotten a ransom demand? Because I mean, that might be a reason, but you know, aw, we just love Summer. Poor little thing. She's adorable. 25% of whole US trafficking is in Tennessee. My lord. Exactly. What a negative comment to distract a theory that could be possible. Very sus statement. She said, in my opinion. Yeah, because she's like saying that things are not true when she's stating that she doesn't know what happened to Sebastian. So how would you possibly say that that's not true or BS? You know? I think that's because KP knows that's not what happened. They've seen, or excuse me, they've even said stuff about harassing people over sightings, insinuating they know the sightings aren't legit. How would they know? I agree with that too. And that's just something that we do not see in Devlin's case at all, guys. I mean, yes, there's back and forth. Yes, it's gotten pretty ugly in some of the Facebook groups and things like that. Yeah, sure. It's gotten pretty bad, right? but nothing to the extent of searchers being threatened, big search groups that have pulled out. Um, you know, summer and underground foster care. I can see that. I can see that. Laura, the best news that I can give about Devlin's case is that Devlin's army is running smoothly. They really are. Guys, we're making leaps and bounds in that case, and everybody's working together towards a common goal. And like I said, I'm not, any bigger part of Devlin's army as anybody else. Same thing goes for Sebastian's army. We are all working as hard as we can to figure out what happened. And but there's not this opposition or this, we're working together and we're the only ones that care. We don't have that. Thank God. You know, thank God. So everybody's doing their part and working together. So that's the best update that I can give. I also know that law enforcement is looking into who is deleting the posts from Devlin's Facebook. And to the best of my knowledge, Tamara would really like to know who's doing that as well, as far as I can tell. So law enforcement is absolutely working the case. Thank God. You know, MST, good to see you. MST says, with all the kids in Tennessee, why would an outsider want to take Sebastian if they knew he had issues? Well, MST, that was one thing that really stuck out to me a lot, is the fact that Sebastian has special needs, and because of his special needs, it would be less likely that someone would take on the responsibility that comes along with what Sebastian would need. So I think that's a great point. 88 says, so nonchalant he might be in someone's basement. I couldn't believe that. That was jaw-dropping, in my opinion. Just jaw-dropping. Sebastian is a young man, usually not the criteria, and summer lighting struck too many times in the family. Yeah, lightning struck too many times in the family. I agree. What her father said about her, you know? Oh, really, Sam? Lore Lodge has an informative video about the history of Tennessee and missing kids, them hiding moonshine in missing people's cases. Wow, really? I'm gonna have to go look at that. That is interesting to me because I told you guys when we were looking into Shackle Island, and I said, well, maybe because it's like surrounded by water, they call it that. But it had more to do with the moonshining days and prohibition and things like that. Illegal alcohol trade and such. Whiskey, to be precise. Thank you, Sam. The use of jammers is common in trafficking behavior. Yes, it is. Great point, Neuro V. Yes, it is. Yeah. I don't know, Sam. We were looking into that, and typically those techs, they stay local to an area. That's a great question. Excuse me. All that is unseen says, never heard of underground foster care. Yeah. Well, people that really want children, they find a way to get a child, which is terrible. If it's not family members involved, why has nobody wanted the reward money? That's a good point. Very good point, MST. I mean, look at how much money is on the table for Sebastian. $500,000 from At Night. And then we have a $50,000 reward from the FBI themselves. It was a battle royale to get custody of him. He moved in with my sister up north and cut all ties with his mother. He is now happily married and has a beautiful baby boy. Oh, Detroit, that's such a good ending to that story. That has to be so terrible. I'm going to tell you, when they put me on the PTSD medications, I did not like them. I felt like a damn zombie. I really did. I was like, you know, I'd rather feel things than not. I can't imagine being a child and going through that. Justice for Nuke says maybe she's totting around California, transferring necessities undercover, who's taking care of him is pretty weird that you're not on your hometown where your son is missing. I agree, Justice, and that's been like that from the very beginning. It's like who would leave, you know? Gina says, didn't someone say she is in the reserves? Maybe she reenlisted, in my opinion. I was thinking that too. Yeah, Jude was telling us that she's still active reserve. Sumner County is full of kids, they're everywhere. Gina. Right? Oh my gosh, there was tons of little kids at the pig fest. That's another reason that I didn't film while I was there. Because there was like all these little kids like right at the next table, and I'm like, oh gosh, if I get them on camera, I don't want their parents to be upset. And so yeah, really cute little kids, to be exact. But yeah, they are. I heard that Chris and she's no longer working for Brinks. Oh, I heard that Chris said that she's no longer working for Brinks. I meant to follow up on that. Anyone else heard KK is not working anymore? I've heard both. I've actually heard both. A basement. She said that. Yeah, she said that to Heather Cohen. A basement. Oh, he could be in a basement somewhere. You know? I think it should have been reported to the military. I don't see how they couldn't know, Cheryl, but stranger things have happened. And Shadow says, I find it ironic how KP said she'd bulldoze him down than the cemetery footage, in my opinion, allegedly. That did cross my mind as well. Right? Because I was initially thinking about the construction area next door. But bulldoze, yeah. Mm. MST says then CP was mad because billboards were going up about Sebastian. Why would he be mad? That's another great question. That is another great question. You know, because you would think that they'd want all the awareness possible. It doesn't matter. Seth didn't care about the billboards. He wanted them up, you know, to the best of my knowledge. What do you all think about At Night and their involvement? Has it been more helpful or harmful? That's a good question, Shauna. For me, I think that some of what they've done has been helpful and some has maybe been harmful. And I'm not saying that they had any ill intent behind that. I just think that it really sparked Chris and Katie to act like bigger fools than they already were, and I think that might have been more harmful. But that's not their fault either. I mean, you know, we can't change what other people are going to do or how they react to certain things. But you know, I think that they've done a lot to keep Sebastian in the public eye. And I think really that was the main goal, in my opinion, is what from what I can see. You know, some of the things were that, like some of those riddles that were put out and things like that. That's kind of what I was talking about. Yeah, that the with the ransom and stuff. The basement comment was absolutely weird, you know. Well, and that's another person of interest, Cheryl, because yeah, like her friend was there the whole weekend, Lori, and there had been nothing but crickets about that. No, not one word. And she has never come out and said anything, you know? The best. That was funny, Gina. And see, that was the thing that I thought was funny too. They were kind of poking the bear and they're like, "Oh, we got this info and what do you think of this?" And then we were all like, "Oh my gosh, really?" And so I mean, I think there's a certain amount of that can be helpful, but then there's other, cuz I mean, but I think they were also trying to see what reaction they would get out of whatever they put out too. And I don't think that's a bad strategy. It's just one that it's a strategy that they used, but you know, Nero V says, why is KP doing such long trips in her work van, ready to run ordering services? Yep, on their toes from the FBI. Well, and that's the thing, Chris was talking about looking for crane operator jobs in Canada. You know, um, Kind of makes you wonder, you know. And Lori's son was there. Yes, exactly. And T-Rev, Shadow. I'm confused on how they got the info on the van, but it don't prove who drove it. That's a good point. That's a good point. I think that, well, from what I could gather from Voices of Truth, is that they made sure that all of the information was verified, even though they weren't going to show us exactly how they got to that conclusion, which again is understandable. But I was wondering that the same myself, but then hindsight says it's all public knowledge, you know. So, but then again, how do we know? I think that's a good question, to pose. How do we know who was driving? And guys, I think that one of the most interesting takeaways for me was how Katie was in one location for 3 months and she only put about 40 miles, give or take, on her work van during that time frame. 3 months down in California. And then all of a sudden there's like 22,000 miles. I'm just kidding. I forget the exact number. Right. But then all of a sudden, in a 3.5 month period, she is just like literally drove across the country. You know, the van is weird and the camper. And guys, when they go over the border, they're not checking everybody's, vehicles thoroughly. If they don't have a reason to, they won't, you know. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for being here, Shauna. I'm gonna hop off of here too because I know it's been um, a little bit longer than I even thought we would be up here. But I so enjoy talking with you guys about these theories. And again, I did not want to upset anybody or you know, make more issues. I just think it's important for me to be honest, right? And again, just like even with at night, I would hope that they wouldn't be upset with me for saying, it's kind of both. But I mean, I can say safely myself that some of the things that I've put out have been, somewhat helpful, somewhat hurtful, right? Like there's certain things that, you know, if I had it to do over again, I would do different, right? Because none of us are perfect, but hindsight is always, 2020 vision, perfect vision. So when you look back on it is on a whole, I've poked at Chris Proudfoot, I've poked at Katie, so it's I can't say that I've done anything that At Night hasn't done, in that regard, but keeping Sebastian's name out there is really important. There are sites that will show a person's vehicle ownership history once you have the VIN for a vehicle, and it's very easy to look up its history, registration, service dates, etc. Okay, 88K, there we go. Bingo. Thank you. Yep, there we go. And see, that's why I love having your guys' feedback because again, I can't think of everything. Thanks, Lori. Thank you. Yeah, we've all just put it out. Absolutely, Shadow. And and we all do the best that we can do. And I know everybody's working hard, guys. I never discount that ever. Even sitting here looking through information, even though it doesn't seem I'll give you guys an example. My ex was a carpenter, right? So worked outside and in a physically tough job. And then I had an office job and he would like to remind me that I didn't work as hard as he did, right? Which is not that's not okay to tell anybody that, because that's actually not only wrong, but it's hurtful, right? Um, but either way, he'd say, "Well, what do? You sit on your butt in the office all day." It's like, yes, but I use my brain, right? And then at the end of the day, you're tired, you're exhausted because you've used your brain power, right? You might not be physically exhausted, but you're mentally exhausted. And so even if people are only, looking over footage or reading a whole bunch of data or becoming more knowledgeable through research, it doesn't mean that they're not working as hard as somebody who's physically out there searching. Again, we all can bring something to the table, and it's not nice, and it doesn't behoove, or it doesn't show Sebastian's army the way that it truly is, right? It's being portrayed incorrectly when people say, well, there's only a small number of us that are doing anything. That is not true. There's only a small number of people who are actually helping to find Sebastian. Again, not true. Just putting that out there, you know. I believe the campers were switched. I do. I do. Yep. I do too. And I think that was one that Hindsight put out as well about the campers, if I'm not mistaken, you know. Well, and I don't feel ashamed, Shauna, because I think even if somebody, you know, I think the intent is a big one, right? Like, because if you're not intentionally putting out something that you think is going to harm somebody, there's a big difference. But I know there are things that we would all do differently. One major thing I would have done differently is I would have got my ass to Sumner County right away. I should have got my butt there, and I should have peeped the scene right when it happened, you know? Um, yeah, the Brinks van is a white work van. Yep. The sighting of them in Oregon throws me off a little bit. Yeah, the lady's story about finding the heart on the table in Ford's Lake being a heart shape, same as her tattoo. I thought that was something that was pretty interesting as well, Tess. I did, Um, have a great day, Nero V. Thank you guys all so much. You guys are all so great, and I appreciate you all being here. You know, I heard about the 40. Do you guys have comfort? Do you know where I can find? Well, I'll just put it this way. Do you guys know where I can find confirmation of how someone knows about the 40 minutes, and if there's any proof, you know? Because I heard that too, but I don't know that there was any receipt shown or um, anything from the house across the street that would have seen that. Gina, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Gina says, remember someone said Katie was yelling at the mayor they weren't doing enough one day, or excuse me, on day one, in my opinion. And, I can see that as being looked at as performative, Gina, if it was me, right? Because you don't think that the first day you would have somebody doing that, right? Maybe a couple days in, but not the first day. Katie really those I need to get back to our mistakes in Sebastian Rogers' case, you know. Oh, it was AI. Oh, well then I don't yeah, okay. No, I won't probably get onto that bandwagon so easily. Now if one of the neighbors came out and said, "Hey, Katie didn't show up on my Ring camera until, 7:30 or whatever." I'm guessing that's kind of what when they're saying like 7, a little after 7 where they got there. Um, but yeah, I can't, but I do know. Well, I'll just say what I do know. I do know from driving the Texas Roadhouse to the Texas Roadhouse to Chris and Katie's, or driving from Chris and Katie's to the Texas Roadhouse, um, around that same time that on a Sunday evening. Um, yeah, no more than 15 minutes. It should have taken her no more than 15 minutes to get home. with no stops and all of that. So, um, I don't know about the drive. I thought it was about 10 minutes for them to get home, supposedly confirmed. Well, that's what I was thinking too, you know? Um, so, but hey, if we get information, or if you guys know of information, definitely let me know. And I mean, we'll talk about it, you know? Oh, okay. Okay. So the other creator saying 40-ish minutes home, saw her pull in on the camera. Ah, I see. Okay. Thank you, NorCal SoGal. Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, at this juncture in the game, I don't think that that would be something that would be off the table to show us if that's the case. Show me, I know, guys, I'm going to be skeptical until I see it myself. I know that's, you know, you could some people would be like, "Yeah, that's the way I would do it," and some people would be like, "I would just believe it because so and so said it," I'm not so quick to do that. Um, because we've heard so much in Sebastian's case that's not confirmed. Well, somebody said this, you know. Um, so I try to stick to what I know or what we can prove. Hey Faye, good morning. Happy New Year, Happy New Year. If CC is being looked at, this sticky since another jurisdiction could be holding it up, in my opinion. Well, and that's another thing too. It's all about the jurisdiction. It really is. Um, right, exactly. 88, thank you. How many times have they told us that all their times were vetted via Life 360? Well, and then we find out that you can manipulate Life 360. You can change your location. But I heard that they had the upgraded version. So, yeah, it's just the way I have to, Shauna. I wish I could. And don't get me wrong, there's people that I really do like trust. I'm like, okay, yeah, but I'm still kind of like, okay, do you have proof? Before I start, spreading it around and stuff. But and again, guys, let's just keep going strong. Let's keep our eyes focused. Um, Another fun football reference to a show that I really like watching just as on a leisure, but clear hearts and excuse me, clear eyes and full hearts can't lose, right? When your eyes are clear, when your heart is in the right place, you can't lose. It's only when we start putting up blinders or where we refuse to see things that are right in front of us or whatever it is. Um, but as long as we're focused on finding Sebastian, we're gonna find him. That's my thought. That's the way I think and feel. So, but yeah, guys, let's keep on thinking. Let's all keep thinking, you know? It is inaccurate. Yep. Yeah, it is inaccurate. I believe that, all that is unseen. Yeah. Yeah, so let's just keep on going, guys. And if we know that that car or one of the vehicles in the cemetery went south, that might be a good start for a direction, you know. Thank you, NorCal SoGal. Yeah, I see. I couldn't have a great conversation without you guys. None of the stuff I could do without you guys, really. Everybody that shows us, you know, any of the footage that they take when they go on location, anybody who is working with footage from ring cameras, all of it is important. All of it is because obviously we know law enforcement isn't, going to tell us much. So this is all we can do, and as long as we continue to stay focused with clear eyes and full hearts, we can't lose. We're going to find him. We're gonna find him, guys, and it's not gonna be one person that does it. It's a collective group effort as a team. And that's Sebastian's army. To me, that's Sebastian's army, right? And we do have a general, thank God, and it's Seth. Seth is the general, right? That is Sebastian's father. In Devlin's case, we don't have a general per se, but it is working smoothly. So I think we need to um find out how we can do better for Sebastian, because he deserves better, guys. He does. He deserves better. He would never want us to fight amongst ourselves, because he knows that we're his only shot. I bet you if it was me and I was watching that, it would break my heart to know that my army was at odds with each other. So please know from Lady Freedom's heart, what I'm saying to you right now is I am in no way, shape, or form against anybody who is helping to find Sebastian. As a matter of fact, I welcome you. I welcome you to challenge me. I welcome you to talk about Sebastian, right? And none of us are going to get it right completely. I wish we could. If we could get it right, he would be here, right? He'd be with his dad. He'd be with his mom, for, heaven forbid, if he ran away on his own, right? Yep. So I love you guys all so very, very much. And I will see you all tomorrow. We will do a live, and it'd probably be a night, a late night again. So, that's right. We just want to know that you're safe and all right. Oh, Shauna, we just want your family to have you back, Sebastian, because the light is gone. The light is gone from the school, the hallways where you used to walk. Your dad misses you like crazy, buddy. I know that's true. I know Seth wouldn't mind me speaking for him there. So, Katie's light on at 3 a.m. I mean, it's all these threes. And I was saying that too, Gina. I mean, all these threes, you know. Sweet dreams, Lori. Thank you guys. You guys are amazing. Yeah, come on back, Shauna. Thank you. And I'm going to go check your channel out, hon. Thank you so much. You guys stay Sebastian strong. Stay Devlin strong. We still got a lot to talk about in Devlin's case, and we're going to be doing both as we go along. So keep your eyes peeled, and keep looking out for any little thing where we can, any little breadcrumb that'll lead us to Sebastian. Thank you guys.